Hello everybody and welcome to everyone watching live on JB Motorsports 2, watching delayed on JB Motorsports and watching live for the first time on Instagram. We welcome you to Formula 1 testing, and first of all, apologies for being 37 minutes late. That is because we have had an absolute nightmare in terms of everything that you could possibly imagine that went wrong. We had no TV pictures, we had no live timings, we had then no internet. Everything went wrong, but it wasn't just us. FOMS systems themselves, the timings went down. We actually had TV pictures and timings 37 minutes ago, but we've been fighting with live timing and we've been fighting with internet, so that's been the issue. But for the first time, we welcome you and hello to everybody watching on Instagram and on JB Motorsports 2. We are live and a brand new look as well for F1 this season as well. We'll tweak it throughout the year so it doesn't look as bare, but brand new timings and datas, and the track is clear. Alongside me in the commentary box in vision is Josh T. Richie's down in the pit lane as well. I notice a few others are hanging around as well in the back rooms as well, but welcome Josh. Right, let's start. 2024 for Formula 1 is go.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello everybody and welcome to Formula 1 in 2024. We're just looking at Ocon going round the track now, going through turn 12 and up into turn 13, then down the very long straight down towards the final corner.
And it's the last two corners on this track that the trick is. You can see if you're watching along with us the timing screen and who's hot and who's not. Just to give you some information for you as well. Alonso is fastest on 133.822. Then it's Bottas, Magnussen, Verstappen, Leclerc. Ocon across the line now jumps up into 6th position. Then it's Russell, Tsunoda, and then Russell and Tsunoda round out the top 8 as well. Richie's back in the box as well in audio. Hi Richie, how are you?
I'm doing very good, thanks, Josh. And let's just say it's not very often I'm up at 7:30 on a Wednesday morning. Normally I'm up at 10 to 8 when I've got to leave for the bus in 5 minutes. So, yes, it's nice to be up early and actually be enjoying being up early because F1's back and, oh, I can't wait. It's nice, isn't it? You know, having the new season, a couple of new cars and liveries. It is absolutely brilliant. And, well, we'll see what happens. Red Bull, a little bit of a different design, so we'll see what they can figure up with. Also Mercedes as well, taking their car a completely different direction. This season could be rather interesting. Testing could mean something for once.
It actually could, yeah, and that's the best thing that we could see because there's so much, just a small revolution this year is what we're going to see. We have got Instagram open as well so we can see everything, and actually looking at it on my phone, it looks quite good for a vertical stream. That was literally set up yesterday to get it all done. So yeah, we are go for F1 in 2024. And Josh, we sat through the launches, we've seen all the cars. Small changes, the biggest one though, Red Bull. Massive change to them.
Yeah, absolutely. But as Max Verstappen said in one of his live streams, the livery exactly the same. He did not lie. The Red Bull looks livery-wise absolutely identical, but definitely changes to the side pods and definitely some tweaks to the aero of that car as well.
Running around for half an hour, I'm sneezing like crazy, but the beauty thing about testing is that you can join at any time and we don't really miss too much, but frustrates me that we didn't see the first 30 minutes as well. But now everything's working again, we can stay stabilised. So we've got the times of how long is left in the session. You can see that on our new monitor. This is our new look for 2024, as we can see. So you get track information as well, and just a little bit of a revamp with thanks to multi-viewer as well for the amazing screens that they've got access to. And it saves us a lot as well, actually, in terms of running around, usually setting up streams, because we don't need to do that anymore. But we did have to do it because we lost it for a bit, and then they put a tweet out saying where you could find it if you press the 3 little arrows and click live timing. But the problem is with that, it doesn't have your saved set because it's not actually ready yet. So it's live timing, but I've had to recreate all the set graphics as well. So it's not the best live timing because I've had to manually go through it all again. But we are underway. We are going to be hearing it. All 10 cars have ventured out onto the track already in this session. Now, if you're watching us live on Instagram and JB Motorsports 2, welcome to you. We'll be live for all 3 days. We will be back on Twitch on Friday when we get it back, and we'll be back as well on the main JB Motorsports live for the Bahrain Grand Prix. So, yeah. MotoGP yesterday, loads of bot issues as well. They actually emailed me an apology from Dorna, so that's not bad, but it wasn't their fault. So yeah, but it's been a very bad start to the morning as we try and get everything operational. Josh T's not going to be with us much longer because he's disappearing, so he's only got the first hour. Richie's only got about 30 more minutes as well. Let's see Alexander Albon and the Williams on the back straightaway. Just having a few little bits of lift and coast, it looks and sounds like as well. So we'll, yeah. Doesn't look too different.
Well, it looked like a bit of smoke coming from the tyres there, Josh.
Oh, so he's on the C5
right
tyres.
front.
Let's take a look. So has he locked the front as he goes in?
I know on the exit the corner there was smoke coming from the front right. You might be able to see it in a second once they go into a better view of it. So I'm not sure if there's a bit of an issue there for the Williams, and you can see they've took it back into the pits. But there's no better time to have an issue now than there is anywhere else in the season. You'd rather get it done and dusted in testing. If your car's going to set on fire, do it in the testing. Don't do it in race one.
It caught fire, didn't it, a couple of years ago, the Williams, actually, with Alexander Albon in the commentary box when the Tiffy caught fire. Yeah, well, we've had our testing issue, haven't we? That's our glitch for the day. We lost half an hour of track time, everybody, so we're half an hour behind everybody else in the session at the moment. But, yeah, we're live on Instagram just for this test. We're live on Insta just so that we can just relax and get everything else sorted and get a bit of publicity out there as well for where we need to be. So get in touch. We've got all your questions. We can see them. Rich is watching. Megan's watching. Hi, morning, Megan. So yeah, everyone in there as well. Hopefully, fingers crossed, going to be working ASAP. But yeah, just trundling down. Now, who else is in the comms box? Because I can't actually see on my side.
Jackson.
Ah, Jackson's watching. I'm probably deafened and watching. So, hi, Jackson, if you can hear me. Good. Oh, blimey.
He's not deafened. He's
You're
here.
You're not. Jackson, hello. How are you?
I'm doing great, Josh. Thank you. What's going on, chat? It's about 11:45 here. Still Tuesday for me.
Of course.
Trying to keep it a bit quiet because I'm currently fighting a bit of strep, but still just too excited to see cars on track to not come in and swing by. Also heard that there was a British version of me about foot smaller that was also in chat. I'm sure he's muted in here, but hello, Omi.
Yeah, Omi's around here somewhere, isn't he? Listening in, watching. So yeah, hello everyone. Well, we had the start to the season from hell. By the way, if anyone else noticed, look at the Valtteri Bottas information as well, and that of Joe Granu. They're on the timing screen because 18 of the 20 drivers will go out today. Verstappen and Russell are staying in at the Red Bull and Mercedes, but it's not saying kick. But anyway, we're going to shut up because Ted's down. We all shut up for Ted.
I'm cool with V-carb.
I was
V-carb.
thinking V-carb. Yeah. Apparently, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if on the Instagram the audio's working on the battle computer screen. So I don't know. We'll have to double check that. But it's working on YouTube. Okay. I'm happy with V-carb. Everyone else happy with V-carb? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm cool with V-carb. I think we owe V-carb, whatever you want to call it, an apology, because we can laugh at the name. We can laugh at the obnoxiousness that's gone into the preparation for this team. But I'm fairly confident in saying that they've given us one of the best looking cars in this very, very young 2024 grid.
It looks absolute. Good. The audio's on now. Thanks, Mum. Hello. So yeah, that's good. I think V-carb as well definitely sets it better, and the actual paint livery is decent, which isn't usually the case for many of the teams this year, which is basically the black carbon livery. We all sat through the launches and saw it all as well, so it was all just a bit more miserable. For those of you who are watching delayed coverage on JB Motorsports 1, live coverage of the afternoon session is on JB Motorsports 2 and Instagram. For this test, we're just testing out Instagram really, because why not? We haven't got Twitch, we haven't got the main channel, so just throw it on there. But it's been a bad couple of days, so we're hoping to, and it's been a bad morning, so we're just hoping to restart with some good news going forward. Alonso still fastest, but he's just at fastest sector 1 actually with a 29.686. Yes, Richie.
So we spoke about this last season, and we was both proven very, very wrong. But I'm going to say it again this year. Do you also think Alonso will get a win this season?
Oh, you've asked me that 50 minutes into a test and 15 minutes into our commentary.
Well, we did that before.
Yeah, I know, but we were all like, oh, actually, he looks good this year. I don't know. I think last year Lance Stroll let the side down a lot in terms of helping Alonso. There was nobody there to sort of bring him back up and give him a 2 for all. So I would say if Stroll improves his performance, then they can work together. Alonso might be able to get a win. But I don't know if that Aston Martin is in a position to win if they would favour Alonso or Stroll. I don't know. But Stroll's not going to be there. So, yes, Alonso could probably win. But he's off to Mercedes anyway, so it's pretty much non point.
No, we don't know that yet.
But I also agree with that. I think he's definitely the favoured driver alongside Albon for Mercedes.
All right, we don't know that yet, but he's got to be. He's got to go there. He's got to have it thrown in on the mix as well.
But it depends what Aston Martin can do. If they're quicker than Mercedes, why would he leave?
I think he would, because the last year of the regulations, everyone's going to close back up again, and to have it Mercedes going into 2026, I think there'd be a big sort of push to go. Yeah, okay, I'll go. I'll join you for a year.
We'll see. It's an interesting time, isn't it, this season? Because obviously we had the same going in towards 20, or was it 23? Didn't we have the same thing in 22? But this season, I think it's been through on its head more than it ever has been in the past 6 or 7 years. Because with Hamilton moving, that has pretty much put everyone into, well, most people into a bit of an uncomfortable situation. Perez, Sainz, obviously Albon in the Williams. You've got Aston Martin with Alonso. There's so many seats now which are in question because drivers will be looking to move to Mercedes. It's kind of a hotspot, isn't it? Even though they've not been performing well, it's Mercedes.
And we've got 8, was it? Jess told us on the JB Motorsports podcast, there's, I think, 15 of the 20 drivers who are out of contract at the end of this year that can now follow around.
I think there was 6.
Yeah.
But Hamilton lost his seat at Mercedes, so 5.
It's insane. Absolutely madness. And
Richie, I'll tell you what. I think a big question we also got to ask ourselves here is, obviously we're going to have some guys we're going to want to keep around next year, but who's really the guys that are in the hot seat? You instantly think of Logan Sargent.
Yeah, if he's going to last another year. He came into his own, didn't he, in the second half of 2023. Yeah. But I just get this feeling that if Williams had the opportunity to say, well, if they lose Albon, if Albon takes that Mercedes seat, they'll keep Sargent for the sake of continuity. But if Albon stays at Williams, they're going to look at somebody else to take that second seat. You can see
Perez?
it coming. I don't know if Perez leaves Red Bull. I think he'll be on the.
Done.
Yeah, I think he's done. I think he would take an opportunity at Mercedes, but would to play second fiddle to George. So already it's quite difficult trying to map out this season because there's no
It is.
realistic way that we can predict it. There's that many drivers out of it.
Yeah, well, talking about Haas, I have a bit of an idea. And if Alonso was to leave Aston Martin to retire, or if he was to leave to go to a different team, I think there's two drivers who I think could go for that seat. And the first one being the obvious Felipe Drugovich.
Yeah.
But the other one, I have an idea. Nico Hulkenberg.
At Mercedes.
No, at Aston Martin if
Aston.
Alonso was to leave.
Yeah, that'll happen. I can 100% see that. If Alonso jumps ship to Mercedes, Hulkenberg will go back to the Aston. 110%.
Would still say there's still a lot to prove there.
What, with Hulkenberg?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, he hasn't had a podium yet, has he? That's something you've got to
I'd say he's done a good job last season.
You put the podium aside. I think both Hulkenberg and Magnussen are definitely in not the best terms. As we see a bit of porpoising here, it looks like, gents.
Uh-oh, not again.
And from the stake car.
Well,
That's weird to say, isn't it? Is it kick, Sabre, or stake? What do we say?
Right, Stake has officially left the team. It's now Kick Sauber. It's officially Kick Sauber. Because of the gambling laws, it's Kick Sauber. That's the new team name. It's going to be Stake it's selected. Okay, a lot of porpoising down this main straight for a few of the cars, and it's the bumps, I believe, that's causing it down to turn 1. We saw that a couple of years ago, but down the early part of the straight, there's certainly some porpoising, and that I was expecting that. And I know everyone's going, oh, well, why didn't they get rid of that at the end of 22? Many of the teams have actually taken a step back towards 2022's concept because the avenue they went down in 23, they had no development room. It didn't work. So they've gone back to the drawing board, got it in for 2022 spec, and then just made upgrades to 24. So actually, it's 22 cars that have jumped a season. So we've just annexed 23. As we see the V-carb of Sonoda, the RB into turn 1. Jackson, you are right. It's a striking livery. No
Instantly
carbon.
reminds me of old school Toro Rosso liveries.
Yeah.
So good.
A proper sort of titanium-looking blue, isn't it? Like you've burnt it with a blowtorch almost. Look. Oh, it gets a snap out of 4. Does Sonoda. Omi says, hi, Jackson. Hi, everyone. I'm still in bed on my phone, so not chatting, but no Crofty for testing commentary. At the moment, he'll take over in the afternoon session, or with 2 hours to go of day 1.
He's not in Bahrain.
Crofty's not in
Oh, is he?
Bahrain?
Not until next week.
What?
Oh.
How did you know that?
Instagram, he posted it.
Why isn't he there?
So Jake's in the booth then.
What? I am staggered. Crofty's not in testing.
No?
What?
I'll send you the post.
But why not? Is there a reason why?
Testing, not in Bahrain till next week. School holidays, so I'm spending a few more days with the family, but following events at home. That is really bizarre.
It is indeed.
That's the first time
But-
Crofty's not going to be on a Sky F1 commentary broadcast. Anyway, one man who is Anthony Davidson, and he's trackside.
A very technical part of the track. By that I mean it's a new part of the track. It's not on the actual circuit, it's the runoff area. So that's interesting that they've chosen to re-tarmac that particular part. We've now got Leclerc just creeping around here through turn 1. He comes on an outlap in the Ferrari. And the trick for this series of corners is really getting the car stopped efficiently, not locking the tyres up like I mentioned before, and get to the apex. Here comes Alonso now. He's been very good at this corner, pinching the car there, getting it straight at that point to then get on throttle early through the exit of turn 2 around turn 3. Now the Aston Martin does seem pretty good actually in that area. I've been watching the Red Bull with Max Verstappen behind the wheel, even losing the rear just slightly at the apex of turn 1 in the very slow speed part when you're in second gear or third gear. This is Magnussen going through there slowly as well. And it's at that point where he is there. You need the rear to be there for you. So get the car turned nicely. You need the rear end stability. That seems to be where the Aston Martin looks strong at the moment. Here comes the McLaren of Piastri past us slowly on an outlap as well. They all seem to be on their outlap. What they generally do early on in this session, at least, they're doing one fast lap, one slow lap, probably to recharge the battery in between, also to cool the tyres down and cool the brakes down, depending on what they're trying. But yeah, I love watching this particular part of the track because it highlights what so many of the corners throw at you on this circuit. Very slow speed. You need a good mechanical balance, good mechanical grip from the car. So the way you're working the tyres, the suspension, that critical setup, that relationship between the ride height of the car and the downforce coming through the floor of the car versus that mechanical grip of the suspension and how that interacts with the aerodynamics. And that's why you can never have the perfect race car around this track. That combination of very slow speed and then higher speed corners later on in the lap, like turn 6 and 7, turn 12. Here's Alonso, and he got the RB behind him. Fernando just looking like he's having to start to protect those rear tyres a little bit more, and you see as he gets onto that serrated, that double edge serrated curve there on the exit of turn 2, which then becomes the apex of turn 3, how that can violently snap the car around. And I believe Leclerc is on his way. Yeah, it's a little bit quicker this time for him. He's not fully leaning on the car, really nursing those tyres, apart from that bit there. So that's as they're going through the crosswind as well. It's not just the curb that's getting the better of them. And here's Magnussen. It's a really hard part of the track to get right, as you're desperately eager to get onto the power full throttle as early as you can. As the downforce and the speed starts to build in the car, you're getting to that crossover point from going from mechanical grip of the car through to the aerodynamics as you speed up. Obviously, the faster these cars go, the more load, the more downforce they get. And it's around that part there where you're getting that crossover point. And if you're a bit too eager on the power, if the crosswind takes you, if the curb gets the car, it's that fine balance that the drivers are having to deal with here. And you can only really see that stuff from being here trackside. The cameras tend to hide all the intricacies of it all. So hopefully you've seen a little bit of extra detail here. Back to you, Alex and the gang.
Well, everyone's disappeared now on the board, which is quite worrying. I know Omi's watching in bed, and he'll be back with us shortly. But yes, everyone at the moment has disappeared for the time being, which isn't actually the best thing. Oh, and now the laptop's gone offline. Oh, well, that's always the way it goes, isn't it? Something happens and we all start panicking because, the laptop's just disconnected. Anyway, let's stay with Sky.
On the calendar, it's the same original surface. You can see how white the surface is. That's because the asphalt, the bitumen in the surface has worn away over the years. And the stones actually have protruded, and they're now showing. So they're the white sort of, I think it's like is it Welsh granite that they used in the original circuit design here in the tarmac. So that now is showing, and it's that abrasive stone that really wears the tyres and creates such a low grip. It never used to be like that. It's weathered over the years. So because of its nature being low grip, because of the slow speed corners linked with long straights, it's quite in many ways a different circuit to where we'll go later in the year. Well, particularly Saudi. You couldn't get in Jeddah 2 different circuits, only 85 miles apart or something in location, but in terms of track design and actual tarmac, how it gives the grip to the tyre, it's almost from one extreme to the other, I'd say, in terms of grip. So we won't see, even after race day here, the true pecking order of the car's competitiveness.
Thanks, mate. Answer and a half from Anthony Davidson. Loving the analysis down there at turn 1. And
the provenance of the asphalt.
Yes. What do we think? It's just over the border?
Shropshire.
Just
over the Welsh border.
Yeah. Testing chat. That's what you get. Lovely message on the crash helmet visor of Oscar Piastri there for Gilles de Farron, as McLaren pay tribute to a phenomenal driver, a man who was involved with that team as well, and just a phenomenal giant in motor racing who we sadly lost over the winter.
Yeah, that was awful shock. I loved Gilles, like so many people in this paddock. I mean, Gilles had friends everywhere. He was just the nicest guy, genuinely the nicest guy, properly interested in everyone and everything, loved his racing, lived for his family and his kids, and my goodness, was one of the most impressive drivers I've ever seen. He still holds the closed circuit speed record in the United States. He was phenomenally talented, just a beautiful human, and I know everyone in this paddock is going to miss him. It was a horrible shock. He was the best. He was genuinely the best.
Yeah, what a guy. He had the respect and friendship as well of so many people, but the respect for him. Such an intelligent man, lived and breathed motorsport, and there was horrible news to hear over the winter.
Everybody misses Gilles de Ferran. So Josh T has vacated, so has Omi, so has Richie, so has Jackson, and Omi's watching in the background, and we've just popped him on at the moment because we haven't got another camera angle at the moment, so he's just sort of staying on the one screen as well. We've got one for Instagram, so if you're watching on Instagram, you're just seeing me, but if you're watching on YouTube, you're seeing both. But hello, everybody. Alexander Albon then coming up into the braking zone at turn number 11, throws the car in. He's on the C4 tyre compound, which is the normal red Pirelli tyre with the red stripe around the side of it. That's how we can tell the difference. If it's white with no stripe, it's the C1. White with a stripe is C2. Yellow with a stripe, C3. Yellow without stripe is C4, and C5 is blah blah blah, and C0 of course here as well. So C0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across the 3 tyre compounds as well. So it gets complicated, but we'll tell you which tyres they're on, and you can see the live timings as well alongside, and who's hot and who's not. Albon's lap time across the line. That's a fourth fastest time, 1:34.856. I'm just going to actually bend the monitor a little bit so I can see it easier sat down, because we've only got the one timing monitor at the moment. As we see Albon again, just having a little bit of pulsing issues coming into the braking zone there, down at the back of the track. But yeah, it's all looking quite nice and quite fun, and aero paint looking a little bit dodgy as well there, the sort of orange paint on the front of the blue Williams, but it goes well with the Gulf logo that they've got on there for the oil, of course, the Gulf oil, which is their petroleum supplier. Leclerc still fastest, 1:33.658. And had a red flag though, with 2:53 to go in this morning session. They've all just about remained calm as we fly through. Leclerc, 1:33.658. Alonso, 1:33.822. Tsunoda's on another outlap as they continue to push through. Lovely stuff from Albon actually at the moment as well. We can see how he's sort of handling the car, just hearing everything. They want to test out the right-hand side of that Williams, the FW46, or is it the FW47 now on that car? Want to make sure it's A-OK coming into it. Wind speed, 13 kilometers an hour. Track temperature 35.3, air temperature 23.7, 36% humidity as well, as you can see at the top of the screens. Albon, literally, the cars are bouncing like crazy out there on the track today. It's literally, they're proporting like mad, and it's just causing nothing but issues, and you can see the drivers having to physically fight the car. Here's the Mercedes of George Russell. Currently 9th fastest in this session. He's done, I believe, he's on a brand new set of tyres, but we don't know how many laps he's actually done on the set. That's annoying. Can't see actually how many lap times he's done. Lewis Hamilton keeping an eye on George Russell's progress in the new Mercedes car. Red Bull in the hands of Max Verstappen. is 7th on the 1:35.993, but they only did a shakedown lap. So far, Russell in the Mercedes, I can tell you, is 16th fastest. So 16 laps he's done and 9th fastest. He heads down to turn 1, hard on the brakes, flicks the car in, back on the path, 3rd gear, 4th at 126 miles an hour. DRS open on the run up towards turn number 4. And at this point, you'll be in a lot higher speed as well in terms of controlling the exit, because it's sort of an uphill entrance into 4. And then just at the exit, it drops downhill and sort of curves away from you. So it's a tricky part of the track to get right because the rear steps out on you as you go down the hill. A little bit of a lock-up coming into turn 8. Now 9 and 10 are sweeping left double. Flip the car in at 9, and then you trail braking in. That means you're turning and braking at the same time, riding the brake on the entrance to the apex at turn 10. Boot it hard down the straight. Open up the DRS once again as you're coming towards turn 11. Another fast left. Keep the car into the centre line. Let it drift out as you gradually get the power. Pick it up into 11 and flick the car right into 12. Get too much rear on, you'll hit the wall and just step it out. Double left as well into the last 3 corners. 12, 13, 14, 15, all left, all right-handers as well. Down the brakes, hard. 4th gear corner, flick the car again. Gradually accelerate down the power. DRS open when you're in a straight line up towards it. Russell's lap time, not going to beat Leclerc's 1:33. It's a 1:36.542 on the board. So not a bad time there, George Russell. Toto Wolff watching on. Hamilton's in the car tomorrow on day 2. Verstappen and Russell, the only 2 drivers who are remaining as drivers throughout the first day of testing. Perez and Hamilton take over tomorrow. Every other team is having AM and PM drivers. That's why you're seeing half the field is a yes and no. So we won't see Hamilton today, and we won't see Perez today. Sainz will be out in the afternoon session after Leclerc is in the morning. On board with Yuki Tsunoda, and we've got some team radio.
So for McLaren,
wind is 20 kph, headwind turn 1. So as we mentioned before, headwind turn 1.
I was expecting.
So some headwind into turn 1 for Yuki Tsunoda. I don't think we usually hear team radio in pre-season testing, so that's already a big thumbs up as they fly through once more into the sand dune section at 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. Beautiful downhill run. It's like you're on rails to that part of the track. When the car's just right, it's flicking backwards and forwards, going superbly well. As he reaches back up, this is 9 and 10. You can see it on your driver tracker where they are. I think the driver tracker is working. Is it still? Oh, driver tracker, is it frozen a lot? So have a look. Oh yeah, driver tracker's frozen. That's always great. The track map's frozen. Hopefully the timings haven't. Have the timings frozen as well? They have. Oh, brilliant. When did that happen? Oh. If it's not one thing, it's another. I can tell you that right now. So, multi-viewer's timing screens are frozen. Didn't expect that actually to happen. So, I think tomorrow, Perez and Verstappen are taking over joint seats. Then the next day, they're changing over. So, now to start another lap time. But we've lost timings. By the fact that it's still ticking down. But the fact it's still ticking down, what that tells me is that the FOM server's gone down. So, yeah, that's a glitch and a half, isn't it, to try and solve on the back half of everything. Let's wait a few minutes and see if they come back to us. I'm just trying to have a look, see if there's any problems. Yeah, the live timing's having nothing but issues at the moment. It does look very difficult actually how it's all working today. It does look like it's all... Yeah, there is some issues coming through. So fingers crossed it will be working again shortly. They're probably just adjusting the systems. I mean, we're still on because we can see we're on. I don't know if I'm getting any YouTube live chat. Sorry about that, everyone. If we're not, as we're on board with Yuki Tsunoda. 5th fastest at the moment on a 1:34.834. Now look at that. It's definitely wrong because on that timing screen, Tsunoda's 3rd. So when did it stop? The time is ticking down right. So I have no idea what's happening. Morning, Coffee Dicks. Morning. Morning. Hello, everyone. I've just got my timings back up so I can see that. Hello, everyone. On the YouTube chat, Tsunoda's down by 2/10 in the middle sector as well to try and see that. Really bugged out that that's not working, that we've lost timings. I don't actually know what's wrong. Hang on a minute. It has a its live timing is stuck. It has a refresh button. Ah, there we go. I mended something without it causing a problem. I've mended something. Yes. You no idea how happy I am that happened without us having to go off air or something. That was brilliant. Honestly, after the morning we had and the day yesterday, I mended something. I feel like Clarkson. Right, across the line, this is going to be Fernando Alonso, 2nd fastest at the moment in the Aston Martin, into the braking zone for the first corner. Down the brakes so hard, you can hear it chug, 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 chug down. Nice at the exit. Just casual on path. He's got DRS on the run up to turn 4 as well. Lightly touching that brake. Flicks the car in. Yeah, it's looking good now for Fernando Alonso. I understand that Alex Jakes is going to stay in the commentary box for most of the day, but they're going to change over and Rachel Brooks is going to lead some bits as well. As well as, I don't know, Laura Winter I noticed had a lot of notes, but I don't know if she's actually had any system changes yet. So we'll have a look and see if she is in there at any point. Because actually, if Laura Winter is there and we haven't seen it yet, it stands to reason that she'll be in the commentary box. Right? That makes sense to me. Alonso, first sector time was a where is it? 29.797. Second sector was a 40.523. So Alonso's still finding the grip as he heads down the back straightaway in towards turn 14. Nice and tight on the entry as well. So let's get back on the power gradually. Of course, you can't see much in pre-season testing. Could we get Alex Jakes and Martin Brundle as well, maybe? If we do, I'm turning it up. 100%. We discussed that last season, yeah. We did, and I hope that's the case. As Alonso crosses the line, there's a 1:33.762 and sets his fastest time of the test so far. A new personal best for him. By the way, Omi is not in the comms box, just that in all the rush yesterday, guess who forgot to set up a single camera? Me. So I'll get that sorted in the lunch break. So Omi's just watching on in the background on mute, but he can hear us. Probably giggling as well. But on Instagram, you can see us normally. Hello. Because I put the single cam on there, I just forgot to put the single cam on the other screen. Literally, OBS running a vertical and a portrait. Well, portrait and a horizontal. Yeah, vertical and horizontal stream. Love it. And we're going to keep these as we're not going to stream it all the time, but we are going to record in vertical so that we can get some social media clips out quickly of any good things. So it hasn't gone to waste, this new system software that we've got hold of as well. 3 cars out on the track, as you can see. Tsunoda, Alonso and Ocon at the moment. And Red Bull are just changing over some engine cover parts. That's new. The Red Bull, that is interesting. Oh, we've just seen something down at Red Bull. That's fascinating to me. The Red Bull engine cover is in 2 halves. Now, usually the engine cover is one long piece that's connected together. So it goes over the centre and it's all together. Red Bulls are separate. That is interesting. So Adrian Newey this year has decided to split the engine covers. I wonder if any other team have gone for that. So it's a split engine cover on the Red Bull. And that must be because the side pods are different this year, because it's a vertical intake for the side pods, not horizontal. And Omi's leaving the box soon. Ah! Right, okay. Give me 30 seconds to try and find the F1 blog that I can pop it on the stream. Because otherwise, why is it just done that? When I say I'm having a massive error, I mean I am really having one today. Really bad. Blimey, what's going on here? Where's BBC? I had one for BBC somewhere. Do you know, the amount of mess that we've got here, it's unbelievable trying to find everything. Right. Battle screen to the rescue while I get this sorted.
Desperately impressive. Like Lewis Hamilton in junior Formula, impressive.
Oh, without doubt. And if you're unfamiliar with the name of Andrea Kimi Antonelli, you're going to be hearing it a lot. You're going to be hearing a junior driver of 17 years of age talked about like he's on the grid. As we
Ocon! Esteban Ocon coming out of turn 6 and 7, getting on the gravel. So there's been an incident there as well that he's gone through. Not the greatest. We'll have back.
Over the crest there, the rear of the car goes light, and C2 tyres again quite hard. One step softer than what the Red Bull of Max Verstappen was running earlier and struggling with similarly. And Ocon using everything and maybe even a little bit of luck to keep that one in a straight line.
So Antonelli, Jakesy.
Yes, so there are a lot of talented drivers on the F2 grid this year, but Antonelli is being talked up enormously because he is part of that Mercedes program. He is the FRECA champion who has bypassed Formula 3.
And that's the big thing here.
And has been placed straight into Formula 2. We've had drivers like Max Verstappen, like Lance Stroll, who have just jumped straight up from the third tier to Formula 1. But he's bypassed the third tier. He's been placed with a team with championship pedigree in Prema, who brought through the likes of Charles Leclerc. He is incredibly highly rated. If you talk on a podcast for 45 minutes and squish all the answers together, sometimes an either-or question could look different if you
Alex Jake says
put it all
Antonelli
into
will not be
one article and you just rely on the pull quotes. But equally, if you go on a podcast, you take that chance. I think...
So what did you say? Can you clear it up?
Yeah, I think it would make more sense to do a Leclerc... having not seen one session of Formula 2 so far, the ultimate thing is let them race, let's see who performs well, let's see who does well. Reputations don't win titles, drivers do. You have to perform. Formula 2 is incredibly competitive. But if you were going to promote him, I think it's an incredibly difficult ask to ask someone to go from being a FRECA champion to a Mercedes Formula 1 driver in such a short space of time.
Even if he wins the championship?
Yes, because a difference between, let's say he's half a second off George Russell in his first ever Formula 1 qualifying session, okay? If you're with a Williams, or if you're with a Sauber, like we're looking at on screen at the moment, you can learn the ropes. I thought one of the useful things for Oscar Piastri last year is that McLaren did get a bit of a slow start. So his early races in Formula 1 were outside of the focus of, say, a Q3. If you're a Mercedes Formula 1 driver, you're expected to get to Q3. How close the field spread is, I just think you're heaping a lot of pressure on. That said, if he's phenomenal, if he starts winning for fun, like we saw with Russell, like we saw with Charles Leclerc, then there's going to be a huge clamour to promote it.
So I've always been of the opinion that you're ready when you're ready, and I mean that in terms of Formula 1 has looked towards younger and younger drivers over time, to the extent that older drivers got passed over. And I always thought that was a bit harsh. You know, okay, it took you 2 years, 3 years to win the F2 title. I don't think that should matter. Because quality should shine through, and it shouldn't matter how long it takes you. If you're good enough, you should be there. And I think if Antonelli does show that he's good enough, I would love to see him in that Mercedes. Very wobbly rear wing on that Sauber with the DRS open, the top element there. Look, the exceptions tend to be the exceptional. Verstappen, straight out of F3 after, what, a season in cars? Straight into F1. Didn't look out of place? Not at all. Okay, he was in the Toro Rosso and then they bumped him up after a season and a bit. If Antonelli is as good as we think he is, the last time this kind of thing happened was Lewis in at McLaren. Everyone said it's too soon, he's not experienced enough. And he was in an era of unlimited testing, admittedly. He got a lot of practice.
That is Will Buxton anticipating where I was going.
I saw your eyes light up. He was a phenomenon. He did a brilliant job. He matched Fernando Alonso in their rookie season together, and has gone on to be the driver that we know he is. I would love, and Toto has said we may take a bold decision on our drivers. Yes. I honestly would love it.
You've got to go bold. If Antonelli wins F2, looks an absolute superstar, your Mercedes, go bold.
Do it.
Take the punt, put a superstar in the right seat, and then if 2025 starts off a bit slow, we know that the expectation is not that he's going to come in and beat Russell and be a champion, but he's at least bedded in with Mercedes. The pressure will not be, there will be scrutiny, there always is, but it's not going to be through the roof in the early races. But then you're there, you've got a season under your belt, 2026, new regs, you're ready to hit it hard off the top. And I think team principals are too cautious with their driver signings. There's no rookies on the grid now. I think everyone is so stable and wants to keep a safe pair of hands behind the wheel. When you have a potential star, it's very rare that they don't end up being a star.
We'll pick that up in a second. You might have been seeing Esteban Ocon going slowly. He did say on the team radio there was an issue with the power unit. It appears to have righted itself. He's going to go for another push lap. Will?
Yeah, Alpine obviously already stating over the winter that the major thing that they're going to be contending with this year is their power unit. Of course, under an engine freeze, no major changes you can make to it other than for reliability, and we always know that is a means by which you can also improve performance, even though you shouldn't. But yes, Alpine stating that their power unit is still their major concern. Now, listen, I would love to see Antonelli get the chance. I would love to see him get in. I would love to see him shake it up. As Jolien says, take a chance on somebody who's got all this potential, because we roll back 18 years. Kimi Räikkönen leaves McLaren and goes to Ferrari, right? Who are we going to replace Kimi with? You know what? We'll stick our rookie, our guy who we've backed the entire way through Junior Formula. We'll stick him in the car because we believe in him. And what happened? Lewis and Fernando fought Kimi for the title, missed out by a point. How fitting, 18 years later, that an 18-year-old named for Räikkönen should replace the driver leaving the silver car for the Scuderia. Comes in, fights for the championship. Let's go. Let's go.
Okay, and the other thing here is Hamilton is off, so they have a vacant seat. So it's not like they can extend a veteran's career by another year and dangle the carrot to Antonelli if he's good enough and give Lewis, which they ironically did, an option to leave after 1 year.
This is it.
But, the same thing was true with Fernando Alonso at Alpine. They didn't want to sign him up for too long in case they had Piastri on their books. They ended up losing both of them. And, that's already happened to Mercedes. So they've got to replace Lewis with someone. And who's going to want to jump in necessarily?
For a year.
You've got to come in and convincingly beat George Russell at that point, which is going to be no easy feat in the Mercedes car, and he's obviously a very talented driver. So who's going to want to do that? Give up where they're at, probably on a lucrative contract if you're in that sort of position as well, to know that you've got a superstar waiting in the wings.
And you give Antonelli 25. You give Antonelli a year in 25 to bed himself in, because new car regs, new start for 2026. He's embedded with the team. What are you going to do? You put him in Williams for a year and then you stick him in at Mercedes with a brand new car, brand new regs, and expect... No, get him in early. Get him to find his feet. Get him into the right place, and then launch him into 2026 and gun for the World Championship with the new regulations. And as Jolien said, the fact that they weren't willing to give Lewis a 3-year deal, the fact they gave him a 1+1 because they knew they had Antonelli. They already made their mind up, and that's what opened the door, and that's what allowed Lewis out. So, you know what? You made your own bed. Lie in it. Stick him in the car.
I would say my counterpoint would be Stoffel Vandoorne.
I knew you'd bring in Stoffel at this point. I raised the question, didn't I?
And Stoffel Vandoorne was phenomenal in the second tier. This is a guy who was out qualifying Fernando Alonso at certain points. Circuits where Alonso had taken pole positions in the past. Huge amount of raw talent, huge amount of promise. You'll notice that he's not in our grid. The only way you can stop Antonelli being a superstar is by rushing him to the top, in my opinion.
I don't think they rushed Stoffel in. Stoffel was ready.
But Stoffel did not get the ideal circumstances.
Exactly.
And Stoffel suddenly found himself out of a championship he shouldn't be.
Stoffel isn't Antonelli, though. You can't say that what happened to one will happen to another.
I think it's a cautionary tale.
And the McLaren was a middling to back-end team. Yeah. Let's be honest, when Stoffel was driving, sometimes he was at the back of the grid and Fernando was doing well to make Q2. So that is your case of putting someone not at the front, and it didn't quite work out for Stoffel. But of course, the profile of McLaren and having a teammate like Fernando.
Can I tell you what I think Toto's doing? I think he's driving the price down of who he's actually going to put in the car for 2025.
Let's put this out there. Toro Rosso, AlphaTauri, RB, whatever you want to call them. You get the drivers in there, you train them up for a few years, then you stick them up at Red Bull. There's no guarantee they are going to fare well against Verstappen. Putting a driver into a junior team to bed them in is no guarantee that when they get their big shot, they're going to make it either. So if you believe in them, don't waste your time. Just stick them in.
Also, guys, Antonelli's not turned a wheel in anger in a Formula 2 car yet. He did testing last
Doesn't
winter.
matter, mate. He's the chosen one.
Let's wait and see if he actually ends up romping the title, because that's a tough enough ask for him in the first.
You can see every Formula 2 race live where you're currently watching this.
Well, it's actually going to be fascinating, Formula 2 this year. We are going to have a Formula 1 driver from Formula 2 next year, because Antonelli is going to be teammates with Ollie Behrman, who jumped in this car last year. The Haas was great, looked super talented, and that's the Prema lineup. It's a power team for those guys.
That used to be their actual name.
I know. Prema power team. They're back to their roots with surely two future F1 stars, given all the hype. But that's a tough benchmark for Antonelli as well. So jumping into F2 with no F3, and you get limited testing in that as well. If he wins it, I mean, that is some talent to come in and do that.
And he already has the super license points.
Ah, the super license points. Made famous by Logan Sargent and his fun to get into Formula 1 a few years ago. All right, well...
So we have a total of 2 hours and 29 minutes to go here in the first day of pre-season testing's morning session. Nelma asked, how are cars on the track? They're doing okay so far. Leclerc on a 133.658, Alonso 133.762, Bottas 134.431, Albon 134.587, Tsunoda 134.834, and then it's Magnussen 135.692, Verstappen 135.993, Russell 136.542, and then Ocon 136.563. That's the times at the moment in this opening session. Well, we've managed to get the blog working, so we have some information for when there's no commentator alongside me in the stream, which is now, while we wait for people. I have no idea, by the way, what the timings are supposed to be on the blogs as well. If I take a look, actually, at the commentators chart to see who's going to be through. Josh T's really been busy, isn't he? Getting all this sorted as well. With the F1 testing, so we're at 8:32 a.m. 8:32 a.m. No one. Synth's going to be around in about half an hour, so Synthal will be joining us, and then Ed Hunter's around in the afternoon as well. But right now, in this little gap we've got, nobody's around, which is annoying, but fun. But yeah, Adam's going to be joining us for the last hour later on today. Ed's going to be joining us as well. It's going to be fun. So just get through, and then we can have Synthal in the box as well. But yeah, it's damn putting this on it during school hours as well, when everyone's just returned to the running order. So it's a bit difficult, and work, of course, for everybody getting in touch with it. But 2 hours and 27 minutes to go in this first session. Best helmet design as well, definitely I think for Yuki Tsunoda at the moment. Looks absolutely awesome with these livery that we're keeping an eye on. And in the only 3 cars out there, as you can see, Albon, Magnussen and Alonso. Everyone else stays inside pit lane. Got their own testing situations.
Rachel Brooks.
Rachel's
who was
coming in the
taking
box.
lead right from.
So we're going to pass over to hear from Rachel.
So Ocon jumping out of the car. Oscar Piastri still with just 9 laps to his name. Back in the garage, as is Max Verstappen. 22 laps on the board, the most of anyone right now is Fernando Alonso, still circulating on 26 laps now for Aston Martin. The lap count creeping up. It's been a very reliable start to the day so far. Piastri just with 9, but no obvious sign of a problem for McLaren in the pit lane. They seem to be running through their program methodically, unpanicked. Hello, Rachel Brooks. How are you?
Hi, Jolien. How are you?
Very good. Enjoying the first hour and a half of the coverage. We've seen plenty of cars on track. There's some nice stories going on. How are you finding it so far?
It's been good. I actually was sitting in here for that Antonelli discussion, and I agree. I think I would say yes, give Antonelli a chance, and also I would say possibly hang on till 2026 and get Fernando in for a year.
Are your team Alex J?
I am. I'm a combination of the two. I'm a combination of all 3 of you almost. Scary thought. But yes, I said this at the time. I said this when we heard the news, and I was standing outside Mercedes HQ in Brackley. And I was asked, and I said, there is so much talk about Antonelli. Everybody's so excited about Antonelli right now. It's an awful lot of pressure put on him. Let's see how he gets on in his first year. But this is the man I think could be sitting on Mercedes in 2025.
You go, calling it early.
Calling it early. Look, he's just gone fastest. That's it. Season done.
Well, the thing is, Aston Martin could yet be ahead of Mercedes. Let's not forget this time last year, Fernando might have not wanted to be in the Mercedes from where he was. New cars, new hopes for both teams. I think Mercedes particularly have probably got a bigger chance to move up the grid with their a bigger revamp of their car from last year to this year. And of course, Aston Martin got a little bit lost towards the end of last season, which doesn't give you a huge amount of hope. But so far, they've looked good on track. Fernando's flying. Maybe he doesn't want to go to Mercedes even.
Well, the interesting thing is, I think we always talk about you can't read anything into testing, but we did read last year that Aston Martin were quick and were going to be good at the first race. I don't want to say anyone had a bet on it. They might have done, they might not have done, but they were quick at the first race. So much as we say we can't, you can read, Will was talking about it earlier, body language, so important to read the body language of people and see who looks happy, who doesn't look happy, and laps on the board.
So Fernando Alonso jumps to the top on a 1:33.385, 2.5 tenths of a second faster than that of Charles Leclerc. Not really surprised because he did back off in that third sector. Fastest sector 1, fastest sector 2, and then a very slow sector 3 was put out. So I'm not entirely 100% convinced there's going to be a more powerful run later, but the world champion is out on the track. Max Verstappen is into the last sector and across the line now, and Max starts a gambit in towards the first corner. Piastri's coming out on track too, just behind him with 2 hours 23 to go into the first corner. A little bit of a puff of smoke from the back there actually. And this is where we get to see the Red Bull. I want to see, is it a vertical inlet or is it not? I'm going to almost try and stand up in the commentary box. We're riding on board with him now as we head up to turn 4. You're hearing the audio in the background from the Red Bull. It's hard to tell sometimes what this new car actually looks like, how good it is. Fix the car in. Now, what's the first sector time? It's a 29.824 for Verstappen. Sector 2 coming up shortly, just after turn 10. Little bit of a squiggle. Sector 2 for Verstappen. Takes it down. What is it? It is... I'm looking at the timing screen. I can't see it changing at the moment. Flicks the car in. Looks okay to me on the exit. And Alonso just at the exit, and it's now Verstappen with the fastest middle sector. It's a 39.904. He's a 10th faster already. So Verstappen with the fastest sector 2 already coming into the last corner at turn 14/15. Gets back on the power, eases out the throttle, and Max Verstappen is about to end the testing run, and it's a 1:33.065. On the first morning of testing, he is already 0.3 of a second faster than anybody else. You just don't know where to look, do you, at some point? What a time from Verstappen. He's gone fastest. And now Leclerc down to 3rd. Let's hand it back over.
Actions at the wheel for Max there. Even through, this is the tricky double left-hander. Turns 9 and 10, no lock-up. And that looked much more stable. So that's what you want to see from a car earlier on. There is a little correction, actually, as he's getting out towards the curb, trying to put down the right foot, the accelerator. But Verstappen then looking much more comfortable in that car now.
And comfortable in the pit lane is Laura. Laura, what have you got for us?
Thank you very much indeed, Rich. It's very good to be back in a Formula One pit lane, I can tell you that for sure. I am in front of the garage of the Alpine of Esteban Ocon. A tricky 2023, of course, for Alpine. The departure of Otmar Zafnauer, the departure of Alan Permain. Bruno Famin named in the winter break at the launch as the new team principal. He's officially within that role now. Previously, of course, an interim as they just navigated the ups and downs of 2023. Both drivers out of contract for this year. Esteban Ocon indeed out of the car at the moment. You can see the blue Flovis all over the black carbon fibre of this A524. In the launch, very much saying the A523 was a car that had plateaued. And so what you are seeing here is that only the steering wheel has survived of that car. This is pretty much a brand new car. I have to say, we've been stood here for 5-10 minutes or so, and there has been an awful lot of work going on around this car. I mean, as you would expect in testing, with setup changes being done throughout, run programs to be had. But a lot of work done here to the front suspension of the car, around the nose as well. And they were earlier taking photos, shining torches to the floor edge and the underneath of the car as well. Worth noting, the PU installation for this Alpine has been optimised and enhanced. Not too much else they could do with a power unit, of course. But it was a sticking point for them in 2023, that power unit. The Alpine often feeling they were down on power. This is currently the scene at the Alpine garage. Sam Collins in the studio with these pictures that Alex on camera here is getting for you. A lot of work going on. Body language seems, I would say, well, not urgent necessarily, but hurried perhaps to get this car back out and get Esteban Ocon clocking up some more laps and a run programme to get through.
Well, it looks to me like one of the drivers, it looks like Ocon has biffed the curb, and that's why the mechanics are working on the underside of the floor, the bit we can't really see quite like. Nice view of the front suspension, the inboard front suspension on that Alpine, and you can see that they've got a pusher on front suspension layout, that central element, the third element that's sometimes referred to. But for me, the biggest change on this Alpine is something at the moment that we can't really see, and it's to do with the layout of the exhaust pipes. Now, exhaust pipes on a Formula One car on the V6 engine are a little bit like tuning an old musical instrument, a sort of bit of brass band work, if you like, just to get the notes right. And what they've done with that exhaust tailpipe and actually the manifold, where all those sort of worm-like bits of spaghetti exhaust feed up to that tailpipe, they found on the old car that they were losing too much power to the MGU-H, the motor generator unit H. That's what recovers the exhaust gas kinetic energy and turns it into battery energy that you can use to make the car go faster down the track, because of course these are all hybrid cars. And they were finding something that Mercedes discovered back in 2014, that if you don't get the exhaust tuning just right, you can't recover enough exhaust energy out of the car and you lose power overall. So that's one of the biggest changes to the Alpine. Just a very neat detail that they've upgraded since the launch there. Look at the leading edge of the side pod duct there with that little drop down. That's something we haven't seen before, Rachel. And Alpine already developing the car. That's fascinating.
Sam, actually, if you can hang on for a second, I just wanted to ask you something, because Matt Harmon said at the launch that Alpine have pretty much changed everything bar the steering wheel on this car this season. They seem to have gone back to sort of a base level where they have a lot of avenues they can go down with this car development-wise, which it seems to be a running theory throughout several teams on the grid.
It absolutely is, because we've got some pretty stable regulations expected into next season. I know it sounds with pre-season testing 2024, and I'm talking about 2025 car design here, but this is actually a really crucial time for the teams. We've got a major rule change coming in 2026. You really don't want to get your car concept wrong and have to go and engineer a completely new concept from scratch, because you're going to have to lose a load of time and you really need to put together a completely different concept of car. Right now, all the teams are banned from developing their 2026 cars, so all the work that goes into these cars needs to carry through to 2025. And some of those comments you refer to, Rachel, that Matt Harmon made, I suspect that this team, Alpine, may be plotting to carry at least the chassis and car concept over of this Alpine over into next season, which the team used to do an awful lot when Jolie was driving for them with the Renault chassis. They kept their chassis seasons, I think. One managed to last three different championships.
Great, thank you, Sam. Jolien, go on. Did you want to come in on that?
Yeah, no, that was not when we had the Lotus chassis in 2015 became pretty much the Renault chassis in 2016, but then it was the year after that was a major rule change, so there was no chassis carryover at that point, so it must have been before my time at Renault. But Alpine are they're another team that have been pretty downbeat with the launch, with this concept change, and it's clearly a bit of a new direction for them. And both drivers sort of saying, well, let's manage expectations at the start of the year. So they are obviously not particularly happy with the numbers that they've seen in the wind tunnel or at base, and in the CFD data they've got, the simulator driving as well. And this is like for like with what they had last year, so you would hope that there's going to be progression, because of course everyone in the field should be making some good progress with a blank canvas to try and right your wrongs of 2023. But Alpine have started the year thinking we're not where we want to be, but crucially with the concept change they've given themselves more wriggle room to add performance to the car, so that is the long-term goal, I think, there. And potentially the drivers have got to be a little bit patient to exploit that, and maybe it'll come quickly. Maybe there'll be some more development in the pipeline that can take months, as we saw last year with McLaren.
The patience is a key word, I think, because I got the impression from several teams up and down the grid, maybe even almost half of the teams, saying that they know they are not going to be competitive at the start of the season because they have given themselves an opportunity to develop this car in so many different directions, which is maybe something they didn't do last year, which is why a lot of them struggled to try and catch up.
Yeah, it's a common theme, really. A lot of the teams, Sauber's another one that have changed concept, and they're going to be building it up. Actually, Bottas in the car so far has had a decent morning, getting a lot of running in at least, but they are another team that are setting not so lofty expectations with the change of concept. And a lot of that is moving towards the Red Bull design that we saw from last year and the year before, where Red Bull have just had iterations of the previous concept, really. And everyone's now moved towards that. They've seen that it's dominated so well last season.
Except Red Bull have gone away.
Except Red Bull have gone away, and that's the irony of it all. They've all gone towards what was a world beater last year, and Red Bull have thought, well, hang on, you guys all do that, and we're going to try this one. So they're in their own voyage of discovery, really, Red Bull, with their latest design.
It is going to be fascinating, isn't it, to see if this hits this Red Bull. I mean, I remember being here last year and everyone was saying Mercedes might not have side pods. When we were waiting to see it, weren't we? And it was the anticipation of, has somebody come up with a genius idea? And obviously that didn't work, and they put side pods back in the car, essentially. And now we've got this. The moment of possibly that tiny crumb of, or huge crumb of ingenuity from the design is, the anticipation's fantastic.
It's quite exciting to see in pre-season when you see someone, especially one of the big teams, go off and do something different to everyone else. And I remember the Mercedes, it was 2 years ago now that they had the zero pod unveiled, and you're just looking at it. And this was Mercedes on the back of a dominant run, just missing out in 21, but they were Constructors' champions and having such a dominant run. And then they unveil this zero pod concept, and you were like, wow, that is alien, but probably incredible. But it wasn't, of course. And that's the thing, when you go out on your own on something innovative, you open yourself up to something that can be tricky. What I would say is the Mercedes, it looked difficult straight away on the circuit in 2022. It looked difficult last year when they tried to, well, they kept with the concept, but they tried to tweak it and maximize it. And watching it out on circuit, watching it on the screens, You could tell that the car looked quite spiky and difficult. It's very early to say on the Red Bull right now, and certainly on the harder tyres earlier on. I mean, probably irrelevant to say because the grip level was just not there. But when Max just bolted on a set of C3s, at least the car's the base looked compliant, and that's what we didn't really see from the Mercedes early days. So, needless to say, I think there's probably more encouragement for Red Bull at this stage than the jeopardy that Mercedes had, but you never know.
I think Max said it's not a conservative car. They've been quite bold and quite aggressive, which is what we want to see, isn't it? I mean, we're coming into these last 2 years of regulations where other teams tend to catch up anyway, and it gets a lot tighter towards the end of it, but you always want to see people being bold with the design.
You know what the biggest surprise for me is that you want to see people being bold. It's quite fun at pre-season testing when the cars look the same. We want to see a tight field, so maybe if they all look the same, they go the same, and that'll be a really close field, and that's quite fun through the season. But when someone doesn't, it does make testing more interesting to see if something is a hit or a miss. What you don't expect is the team that has dominated, not just won the championship, but thrashed everyone, to be the team that's taking the risk. They should be in the safe spot. But the fact that they've gone for it with presumably quite a lot of development time, given they had such a dominant year last year, they had enough time to switch early. It smacks of confidence to me. You never know if it's going to work until it hits the track, but the bold approach for a team like Red Bull to switch away from that, it really does smack of confidence.
To call it a weakness is maybe overemphasising, but if they had a weakness, it was the slow corners, wasn't it? You look at Monaco, you look at Singapore, for them, trying to combat that. We saw AlphaTauri bring a new floor right at the end of the season to Abu Dhabi that seemed to be working. Can they take reference from that to help them this year with the one area where they slightly fell down last year?
I mean, possibly AlphaTauri actually had good slow speed performance at the end of last year. I think back to Mexico as well, where they were absolutely flying. I'd be surprised if there's too much going the other way from the RBs to Red Bull. I think the RBs will be taking as much as they can from Red Bull. Maybe a concept idea, you know, could be floated around in the paddock, but everyone is looking at everyone else already. So even day one morning of testing, there's going to be so many typically spy photographers out there getting all the shots they possibly can of all the cars. You can then see roughly where a car's strength and weakness lies. And I think Red Bull have got enough confidence in themselves probably to just look introspectively right now.
What have you made of Ferrari? We're on board with Charles there at the moment. Just gone quickest in Sector 1. Oh, not
Screechy.
through there.
Screechy down at turn 8 for Charles Leclerc. So this is a C3, the medium compound again, and you can see immediately flat spot on the front right. So Leclerc had done an outlap, was winding it up for an attack there, and did the fastest first sector of anyone, and then just could not stop the car down for turn 8. There's a little bit of a tailwind there as well, stopping the drivers from decelerating quite as quickly as they like. It's a tricky downhill braking zone, and this will end the lap. You've already got a little bit squirmy coming out of turn 6, and then big lock-up braking and turning as well. And he's not the first driver to struggle to slow the car down there, but Charles, yeah, you can see him just turning slightly in as well, unloading that inside front, not helping himself with the deceleration there, and the flat spot you can see on that front right there as it goes around might limit that set of tyres.
Every area of this car has been redesigned according to Enrico Cardile at the launch. And they said they focused as well on trying to reduce Red Bull's DRS advantage. So they've got a revised DRS on this.
Red Bull's DRS was such
incredible.
It was warp speed, wasn't it, when they did some of the DRS passes early in the season. I remember Melbourne and Max flew past Lewis Hamilton for the lead of the race. And that is a key area of development now. The DRS, it can be worth half a second per lap, typically with a couple of activation zones, can be even a little bit more. And that's in qualifying. It is a crucial performance area that I think a lot of the teams hadn't really looked into quite, or realised they could be exploited quite as much as Red Bull did earlier on. So that's a key area, not just for Ferrari, but a team like McLaren as well, who had not the most efficient DRS last year. That's one of their key areas of improvement for this season. Ferrari, I think, are quite interesting to watch, as well as Mercedes this year. Mercedes have gone for a new baseline of what they tried to start last year, but they were a bit stuck with the chassis choice they had for the Zero.
They were playing catch-up, didn't they?
Yeah, and it wasn't a blank canvas that they started with. They wanted the zero pod to still work this time last year, and then they scrabbled around to find
It didn't work.
a very good bodge to make it work, and found some performance late in the season. But this is a fresh start for Mercedes, so there's hope that they can move forward. Ferrari did a lot of great work at the end of last year, and we saw that with the win for Sainz in Singapore, but particularly the late pace that Charles had. A lot of pole positions, some better race pace as well, understanding the car and optimizing it from the Dutch Grand Prix and then the Japanese Grand Prix, adding a new floor and getting Leclerc much more comfortable to extract the most out of it. And they're moving on from that baseline, and that's the order of the day really for Ferrari, is to try and get the rear settled and predictable, so that Leclerc can add some front and get the car rotating like he likes.
They're trying to get...
Yeah, and Leclerc is currently coming across the line and goes second fastest. Fastest third sector of anybody, though, with a 23.197 as well, so very much decent on that lap time. Over 1,000 viewers on JB Motorsports 2 in total, and 150 watching live. That's brilliant. We all thought, oh no, we're going to be on the second channel for the test. No one was going to find us. Thank you, everybody, for finding us and watching along. We'll do our best to bring you this testing like we did for MotoGP as well. And honestly, fantastic. So, yes, we're on JB Motorsports 2 for the time being until we get everything back ready for later. So, 2 hours to go in this one, and it's Verstappen fastest, but the gap's closing down as well. Verstappen started on the circuit, so's Leclerc and Tsunoda. Tsunoda first, then Leclerc and Verstappen in terms of order out there on the circuit. Hello to Octane Logan, so Logan's there as well, and Laura's down in the pits.
I did hear that Alex Albon earlier on had a smoking front right brake disc. Hearing that was no issue at all, but he is having some problems with the DRS within this FW46. He is in the car now, though. There isn't too much of an urgency around what the Williams mechanics are doing. It looks like he's going to be heading back out relatively soon. Much of the off-season winter work into this FW46 is making the car more drivable, giving the drivers a greater window for performance. And indeed also the display on the steering wheel has changed from the chassis to actually now within the steering wheel itself. Much hope, much optimism around Williams Racing. Alex Albon, of course, and Logan Sargent. We'll see him a bit later on. He, of course, has said he's put on 5 kilos over the winter, mostly in muscle. He said he felt light and generally quite unhealthy towards the end of last season, but has bulked over the winter, had a very good refresh, and it'll be interesting to see him out on track a bit later on today. For now, though, Alex Albon within that FW46 for Williams. Issues with the DRS, I'll try and find out if they've been resolved or not. A little minor change for the display on the steering wheel as well. I am also hearing, I just heard, there is a very quirky, fun change to the Mercedes steering wheel as well. So I'm going to head down there and see what I can see and let you guys know about it.
Great.
Yeah, I've heard about this. If you don't know about it, they've teamed up this season with WhatsApp. And basically what they've got is the pit to shore radio, which is the pit to the driver radio system. Instead of having the normal radio communication, which is the 3 little signals that looks like a Wi-Fi router, they've actually put it as the WhatsApp button, the WhatsApp logo, which is fantastic. I'm sure Laura will be telling us more about that shortly as well. Hello to Hala Martin as well, watching on. Octane says, could have been worse, could have been CB Radio, 10-4 good buddy. Yeah, absolutely. We're all here. Hello. So yeah, we're all on as well for this test. Just to give you a quick update, we're live also on Instagram at JB Motorsports IG. So that's vertical. So if you're out and about, just want to sit on the side, if you're on your phone as well at work or something, and you just want to see the timings and listen to the audio, the driver tracker, we're on vertical as well on Instagram. And then we're also here on JB Motorsports 2. Also, we're going to be on JB Motorsports Twitch on Friday when we get that back, because that also got hit with a block. Due to there was a rogue bot from MotoGP, and I've actually apologised. Said no, it wasn't us. Sorry, but I'm all good. I'm all fine because it's turned out for the best with everyone still watching here on the session, which is great news. And we're going to be uploading this. So if you're watching on JB Motorsports, the main channel, and you're watching this as the delayed premiere of the coverage. Hello, we're live on JB Motorsports 2 and on Instagram as well. So we're just trying some new things out during testing. And we're just waiting as well for some other people to join the comms box. But I've had 6 days of MotoGP testing going solo, so I'm fine for now. Bottas in the first sector was down as well. He was a 30.279. Second sector's a 40.852. I'm also taking a look. We're at 99. No, we're at 100. Hey, JB Motorsports 2 is at 100 subscribers. Thank you, everybody. That's brilliant. I know on the main channel we're at 4,500 subscribers. But honestly, for JB Motorsports 2 to hit 100, that's brilliant, because 3 years ago on the main channel we hit 100 subscribers as well during F1 testing. So that means a lot to have that. Something good. 101. Brilliant. Oh, brilliant, guys. Thank you very much. Anyway, let's throw it back over to the pits and with Rachel as well in the comms box.
It was Barcelona, which was a more physical circuit than Bahrain. But I think the most laps I would have done in a day one of Barcelona must have been about 80 laps on a good day. And that just shows how testing's come on. Last year, Max did 160 laps on day one of testing. And yeah, your neck would take the brunt.
Straight to the physio.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. A nice rub down at the end of the day. Make sure that you're loose, because sometimes you'll be back in the car the next day as well. It comes really thick and fast, and you can't afford to not be on top of your game when you only get a day and a half in the car before the season. But the reliability has come on so much that big snap from Albon once again in the Williams. They could do 3 race distances today, and so you've got to be fit enough to do that. It's difficult to replicate the strain of a Formula 1 car in the gym, but it's your neck and your core muscles that are the classic ones.
Williams haven't suddenly taken on an orange sponsor. That's some Flowbiz paint on the back of that Williams right now as Alex takes it round. What did you prefer? Did you prefer doing a morning and then having the afternoon off and then back in the next day? Did you want to do a whole full day and then go? What did you prefer?
I was pretty easy going on it, actually. There's benefits to both. So today we've got only Max and George Russell in the cars for the whole day. Everyone else has split it, and that is keeping a bit of freshness of the drivers as well, because if you're doing 3 race distances, it can take its toll on you a little bit. It allows both drivers to get a feel of the car on each day if there's upgrades coming as well. So there's benefits to that. But then you potentially lose a bit of time around lunch, changing pedal settings and seat and some technical changes on the car basically to accommodate the other driver. So I was pretty easy going. I was an easygoing driver, Rachel.
You're very easy to interview as well. Always a pleasure.
I don't think everyone said that.
Actually, Laura was down at Williams, wasn't she? They were looking at that DRS, so he's just opened it there. And I wonder if that's, looks like it is the reason why they've got the Flowbiz paint. They're just checking the back of that Williams.
They had the Flowbiz on the nose a while ago, so I think they are running through a typical Flowbiz run plan. This is Albon, so he's fighting the car already coming into to turn 4. A little bit wide coming out of it over track limits, no problemo in pre-season. And then there was the snap here on the exit at turn 4. It didn't look so drastic when we jumped on board with him. But there we go, just fighting the rear of the car, still exploring a bit of the scenery around this circuit as well. And that is on the harder tyre as well then for Albon, the C2. And he's already run the softer compound, the C4. So it's always easier to add grip, and when you take it away again, suddenly the car feels not so great. And Albon fighting it, but catching it nicely.
I'm always intrigued to see who is in the car at the end of the last day of testing. I always wonder how teams choose whether drivers have much input in it, because I would imagine you want to be the last person to drive that car before the race.
Oh yeah. Right. So that's roughly how you know who's the preferred driver, is who's driving the car at the end of play.
Number one in the team who's in the car on the Friday afternoon or whatever it is.
Oh yeah, that's the one. So if you're, especially somewhere like here, because it's going to be into the twilight and then the night time, the track will be at its best, the car will be in its final configuration, and you want to be the one driving it in basically what could be a qualifying mode at that point. So the mornings are a little bit hotter, the track's not as good, it's sandier, dustier as well from the night before. You want to be in that car, and I think most of the drivers have been fighting for it. It just depends on the team, really. They've got the final say in how it works. I remember when Nico Hulkenberg joined the team, suddenly it was like, right, you're getting mornings. Nico's getting the final day. I was thinking, oh no, this is where we're at, is it? We had no second driver clause, but there's a few things that sneak in, and you can tell who's the who's the preferred driver in the teams usually by something like that.
On board with Charles again, who, as you say, on that last run, actually did manage to get the lap out of it despite the flat spot on the tyres. So we're expecting to see some more time come from this Ferrari.
So they're all the Red Bull, Charles Leclerc here in the Ferrari, and Fernando Alonso did that time earlier on, all just 3/10 apart, all on the same tyre. We have no idea about engine motor and fuel, and it's very difficult to read into the testing times. But they've all been on the same tyre, sitting around a similar lap time. And Leclerc's thrown a few sets of this medium tyre at it, and he looks like he's done some level of performance style running in terms of a very slow out lap when Ant was out there at turn 2. He was crawling past, coming out of the pits, really trying to prepare the tyres, and that signals that he wants to get perfect for the first lap and maximise it, as is the way that he's been driving. Let's have a look at this replay down towards turn 8. And I think that's a different lock-up then for Charles. Same corner, still getting out to that curb on the entry. We'll see that here. Car bouncing quite a lot there as well. Gets out to that curb, he's slightly braking and turning. And look, this car looks so stiff suddenly. So I think they've made a suspension change. Car bouncing, looks really uncompliant, and Charles struggling with a little bit of locking.
Okay, well, while we have a closer look at this, Laura is down at Mercedes. Laura.
I teased you earlier on, didn't I, with
the steering
quirky,
wheel.
fun change to the steering wheel. Exactly. I'd hoped to show you at least a visual representation of the car, and you can all imagine the steering wheel in there. Unfortunately, as I came down to the garages here, we do have the barriers in place, suggesting that perhaps more than a small setup change is taking place within the garage. I then asked very nicely, and the lovely Adam McDade at Mercedes, who sent across the message about the steering wheel change, very kindly complied. I have the steering wheel in my hand. And what you can see here, for the drivers to now communicate with the team, they will press the WhatsApp button. Perhaps the smallest branding in all of world sport, certainly in Formula One, but a very fun way for Mercedes to demonstrate their partnership with WhatsApp. That is the button that the Mercedes drivers will be pressing to communicate with the team. Of course, it's on WhatsApp.
Brilliant stuff, Laura. Thank you very much, and thank you, Jolyon, who is popping out, but will be back with us a little later on as Charles is wheeled back into the garage now. We have a look. Second on the times then with a 1:33.2 behind Max Verstappen with a 1:33.0. Fernando Alonso there, third quickest so far with a 1:33.3. Temperature is ramping up outside. It's track temperature is now 38.2 with an air temperature of 24 degrees as Anthony Davidson seeks the air conditioning of this commentary box from being outside.
Hello. Yeah, it's much nicer in here. And I mean, it's more fun being out on track, that's for sure, watching the cars real time. And like I said, at the time, it was really good to be able to see the details up close, whereas the car is moving around and the driver really fighting it. But no, I'm not going to lie. It's a bit cooler in here, but it is nice to see the sunshine again. I'm not gonna lie.
One of my highlights though from testing is going out trackside with you, and when you watch the cars and you can see how difficult some of them are to handle, you can see how easy some of them are, how compliant they are out on track, and just having you talk through what we're seeing with our eyes is always one of the highlights of testing. You must still enjoy actually watching them, or is it hard not being in it?
No, I do. I love watching it, actually. I mean, there's very little desire, actually, thankfully, from my side to get into the cars, because I know I wouldn't do them justice anymore. So it's, we're trained athletes to be at your best and to get the best out of the car at all times. And as soon as you step away for too long, then and Formula One just keeps evolving all the time. If you jumped in, you wouldn't do the machinery justice anyway. So that you lack that desire then, therefore, to get in. As we see that lock up from Bottas into turn 1. This is what I was talking about when I was down there. You see here just the inside wheel grabs. It's a bit bumpy there as well. One of the bumpier circuits that we go to these days. Thanks to the older surface that we're on. And actually, there's the tunnel that you drive into the circuit through, and that leads under that section where Bottas, and that's why you get those bumps. The sinkage of the track surface creates the bumps, and yes, that's where you need a good ride quality from the car. If you haven't, combined with braking too late, obviously, as well, It can just grab the inside front wheel often into that one, and it ruins your apex straight away. You run wide, and then that messes up in turn 2 that follows on from there. And I really like the way those two corners link together.
You mentioned no desire to get back in a car right now, but you have been in the Mercedes sim. And there was a quote from Toto Wolff that, in fact, said that you told him the car was a proper car this year.
Yeah, I didn't realise that quote was going to come out.
So much trouble.
You take so much care not to slip up and tell the world about your feelings in the sim. But yeah, he did it for me, which is quite funny. What are we looking at here with
this is Esteban Ocon.
Just letting a car by? No.
Yes,
he was.
Oh, it's the Williams, and he locked up over Albon. He went straight onto the track as well. So this is on board then with Albon as he comes into turn 9 and 10. Turns in, car right at the apex, locks up trying to avoid it as well. So simple to do that as well. It's the first day of pre-season testing for Formula 1 in 2024. We have an hour and 51 minutes remaining of the morning session here, the AM session. And we have noticed a little glitch error on the main stream, so we're going to sort that now for you. Don't say that we don't know when things go wrong, because believe me, we know when things go wrong up here in the comms box as well. So we will adjust and get going, and hopefully all will be well going forward. Yes, it's the I can't even see what it is actually. It's the background black colour, which has gone a bit funny on one side. So we're going to change that. Look, you can see me do it live. There we go. And then you just go and drop it back in underneath everything, and it looks like that. So just a small change around on settings, but I hope everybody is enjoying the season. Best and worst liveries. Best livery, I think, is the Visa Cash App RB, the V-Carb. That strikes quite well. Worst livery is Alpine. They've just on board now with Esteban Ocon. He's just put stickers on. They've just got stickers on the car. It's no comparison. It's a really bad car. Livery design, that one. Mercedes is decent. McLaren's is better than last year. Now they've got rid of the blue. So there's ups and downs with it as well. But let's return back over to Rachel and Anthony in the box.
An hour at the apex, and that's all done within about 100, 120 metres. Pretty impressive stuff. So where I was standing, sorry, to answer your first question, for me, the Aston Martin looked pretty good in that particular part of the track. It was well poised on the braking. It looked easy to tuck into the apex where you need it. The rear looked pretty good when they tried to get on power early on, and then as you build up the speed through turn 2, the rear was still nicely settled. That's what you're looking for. The Red Bull looked a bit of a handful in the very slow speed part with the rear sliding too much. The braking was okay, but then as you build up speed through turn 2, the car looked, for me, it looked the best. But it also looked very heavy. You see it's lethargic in its change of direction.
I just wanted to pick up on this McLaren and why you would just have flowbiz on one side of the rear wing. Why would you have the flowbiz just on one half of the car there?
I think you'd need to ask an aerodynamicist. But maybe they're just trying to save paint.
Well, you know, you imagine both cars, sides of the car are exactly the same. So I'm wondering what they're measuring on that side of the car in particular. Sam, I wonder if Sam's got any ideas on that for us, Sam. Why would they be putting it just on that one half of the car?
The answer's pretty simple, actually, because generally speaking, the cars are roughly symmetrical. Some of the cooling stuff's a bit different side to side, but generally the overall shape of the car is the same on both sides, so it's a bit pointless putting on both sides of the car.
So it is saving paint.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing.
There you go.
Sometimes we try and make things far too complicated, don't we?
All right then, Sam.
Straightforward.
Why on the Williams we see the whole wing painted?
Because they've got more money to spend on paint.
Why would you therefore paint the whole thing then?
I mean, I think they're looking at different experiments. So if you want to look at the Williams, you can see the wing coming towards us. Actually, the whole wing is painted slightly differently across its span. You can see under the MS of the logo, it's a little bit more heavily painted than it is under the W at the start of the logo on the right-hand side of the car, coming towards us on the left, of course. what I think you're looking at there is the team are doing experiments. It's like when you're doing your physics class in high school and you have to study the scientific method, where you've got to come up with a sort of a suggestion for the experiment, a methodology, then you run the experiment, and then the engineers have to go away and write up a report afterwards to see how that experiment worked out, and then they have a think about how to improve the design of the car. So I suspect you may actually be seeing two completely separate experiments going on the rear wing. But also, because, as I said, the cooling stuff on the car isn't exactly symmetrical side to side, at the rear of the car, you may want to do it right across the span of the rear wing, because the hot gases and the stuff coming out the back of the car could be different side to side.
Thank you, Sam. Sam Collins down there at the F1 Technical Centre in Biggin Hill as well. We're just taking a look at Lando now with a few sparks. Oh, hello. A lot of sort of debris flying off the rear of the McLaren MCL 38. Now, is that part of the rear diffuser that's flown onto the track? If so, we'll have to either have a virtual safety car or red flag. At the moment, we haven't had a yellow or red. We had Ocon touch the grass and the gravel area, but not actually have a problem. Top three cars at the moment. Timothy asks, it's Verstappen, Leclerc, and Alonso. So you could arguably say it is going to be that of... Well, here's something interesting. The red flag apparently came out at 11:40. Pit lane was closed and pit lane was open. So either they red flagged or did it exercised. Don't know, but pit lane was closed. That's come up on the race control messages now on the chat. That's interesting. You could argue that the top three teams at the moment, Verstappen, Leclerc and Alonso, going into the mix. So that's how it's happening right now. One more with Fernando Alonso. You can see his speed and map positioning on the driver tracker in front of you and on race control as well. He's not activating DRS, but he's braking into the last corner at turn 14 and gives it a little bit of welly coming out of it as well. And Alonso stays on a 1:33.385, so off the pace, but doing a lot better at the moment. Three cars on the track. Aston Martin with Alonso, Alpine with Ocon, Williams with Albon. It's Verstappen with the fastest time with a 1:33.065. In this first practice session of pre-season testing, day one morning session, the AM time coming in, and a lot of action, anticipation, and I don't want to say it, but waiting around is very much going to be an exciting test. Let's return to Ant and Rachel in the F1 TV comms box.
Important. Let's see what Red Bull do. If they go to zero side pods in the future, which we're predicting in their later iterations of their design this year, then it goes to show that the zero pod concept wasn't such a flop after all. It's just a different solution to cooling.
Well, the floor is, without doubt, I mean, the biggest area of development in these cars, and you try and keep it secret unless you crash in Monaco and your car is craned for the whole world to see and everyone gets to see the underside.
But then it's still secret because nobody knows the different layers of carbon that you're using and the way that the floor can potentially move around as well within all those shapes, the different types of carbon and strengths of carbon that are used within the floor. That's the magic.
Different strength will give you different airflow, will give you different...
Yeah, I guess so. And that's the bit no one, even if you gave a blueprint of the shape, if someone was given, the shape of a floor, it still wouldn't react the same. Because it's how you build the floor as well.
So Sam, I want to bring you in on this because, I mean, we obviously saw the floor of that Red Bull, we saw the floor of the Williams, and we saw the differences between the two last year, and you can see how much that Red Bull floor has been developed. So what other areas are we looking at? Because when the teams talk about it, they talk about the undercut on the side port, they talk about, what they're trying to achieve with that floor. Can you just expand on that for us?
Well, expansion is one of the things you're going to be looking at, how the floor shape changes, the contours, those little details. But the thing about it, and you hear this all the time, and you were absolutely spot on earlier, Rachel, that, everybody's looking at the side pod. Actually, it's the floor that's the really important bit. But Ant's absolutely spot on as well. You can't look at a Grand Prix car and say this aerodynamic part does this. You don't know unless you've got the CAD model, the actual CAD model, or the wind tunnel model, or even better, the real car, and you can stick some sensors over it, you can't really say for certain what all of those little wobbly bits on the floor are all about. So if someone does go off at Monaco and it gets craned up for us all to take pictures of, you're still doing a lot of guesswork, and what you have to do in that situation is sculpt those little edges, and then you start to see on the top of the floor the undercuts of the side pod. Then you start to learn exactly what you were talking about before, that it's that upper surface of the floor and how it works with the lower surface, how the teams are trying to seal the floor edges, build up on that ground effect, and almost have invisible sliding skirts, get that downforce working, but in such a way that it works all the way around the lap, because when a car goes around a corner, it's a bit like your road car in a roundabout. It leans over. Even though they're super stiff, there's still a few millimetres of movement, and that's enough to change the airflow under the car, and just managing those little changes of vortexes, those change of the aerodynamic airflow. If you're sitting in the bath just when it's all finished and there's sort of a bit of, that soapiness on the top, doesn't work if you've got bubble bath in, and you run your fingers through it, you can see all those eddy currents behind your finger when you run it through the top of the bath. That's what you're looking at, but in 3 dimensions, and trying to understand that is how you get the most out of the downforce, and that's what the teams are all trying to do with their floors. So just looking at another team's floor, it's not going to be a great help. But it might get the old grey matter going, it might get you thinking, and it might get you thinking about what you're doing on the leading edge of the side pod, just underneath those ducts. That's a critical area just to help the rest of the floor work.
Thanks very much as well. But just having a quick one, because Charles Leclerc has locked up coming into turn 1. We were just looking at the Ferrari pit wall, and then we cut to Leclerc down in the first corner, drifting offline, going very deep into the braking zone. So Leclerc's had a moment, and he's regrouped himself and has got going again, but that's just a little bit out of positioning. And he's flat spotted the front right tyre as well. He's running the C4 tyre compounds, I believe, on the mediums. So how's he done that? So it's C1, C2, C3, C4. Yeah, so he's running C4 tyre compounds. Which team do you support in 2024? I try and remain neutral. Always a bit of a soft spot for McLaren, but I try and remain neutral as much as possible. Yeah, big lock up from Leclerc. Hit the bump. Rear sort of jumped on him. Let's listen in. So, Ant's even saying as well, he hits the bump, the car gets unsettled, so as soon as he hit the brake, little puff of smoke from the left side, but is the inside right that properly, as soon as he hit the deck, it really put through and locked up massively. Albon, again, looking at front left, coming in and going off the track as well, down at turn 10, so he too is having a few issues. Williams got a lot of aero paint on the rear wing. But we all know he's a fan of MasterCard Lola. Everyone knows. Oh, yeah. Love MasterCard Lola. If it wasn't for them, if it wasn't for MasterCard coming in and forcing Lola to come into the 1997 season instead of the 1998 season that they were planning to, Lola could have actually survived a bit longer. But because MasterCard wanted Lola in for 97, otherwise they won't get any funding, it all went wrong. So, yeah. Maybe I should do a documentary about that, about Lola. I know Josh Revel did it as well, and Masterful as well, he did it in. But maybe I should do one and have a rant about it as well. Alex Albon comes into the pit lane then. Leclerc, Ocon and Alonso, the 3 cars who remain out on the track here in an hour 38 to go in this first session of F1 in 2024. Let's hand back over as we take a look at Pierre Gasly, handing it over to Rachel and Ant.
The tools that you have, you've got the differential as well, of course, it can help you out in a slower speed corner like that to open it up more, to help rotate the car, pivot the car, I mean by that. And yeah, sometimes you need to go more just to tune it more as the tyres start to wear more, or if the wind starts to pick up or change direction. And even if you're behind another car and you're in the turbulence that Sam was talking about earlier on, the turbulence can really affect the attitude of the car. And here is that corner, so you're coming in, you're slowing down and turning at the same time, and then you increase the steering angle as you get to turn 10. You're asking a hell of a lot from the car at that point. You've got to be quite careful on the brake pedal as you get deeper into the corner. to kind of bleed off a bit of pressure from the brakes, because you daren't have that front locking. If you have rear locking there, you'll spin the car. But it's more often the case that you'll have a bit of front locking because the front becomes unloaded.
It's a good corner to watch, actually, through 9 and 10. It's a good place to go and watch on track, actually, to see which cars are the ones that are compliant, which cars are the ones that I mean, when we watched there, and I think it was the Haas that year that we saw was really struggling every time on that corner, and so it turned out at the start of that season.
And it was, yeah, and we saw the Alfa Romeo back then as well was a pretty sweet handling car at the start of 2022 with its shorter wheelbase, and it really helped it in a corner like that. And it looked like a much easier car to drive than many. The one thing that really stands out, though, all of the teams have got this porpoising sorted out, haven't they? When you look back to 2022,
yes,
the difference in ride quality. I mean, it's the same set of regulations.
Same bumps on the track.
Same bump, it's the same track. It hasn't changed at all. And my goodness, the cars look so much better over the bumps, but also the grip they have, slow speed and high speed. The cars are so much more stuck to the ground now than ever before with this, still relatively speaking, new set of regulations. That's the progress of Formula One, and that is with the cost cap as well. Imagine where they'd be without it, spending their old 350 million a year on just car development alone. I mean, that, yeah, they were impressive times, but it's remarkable to see that relentless progress that all these teams make year after year.
Beth is back. Beth, thank you very much for making the trip over from JB1 to JB2 for this test. I know you've always got them on. I'm subscribed to both, and it's a pleasure to see you again after a couple of months off as well. So, Beth asking, was the Williams non-launch was deliberately strategic, or were they running behind? Well, we saw the livery, didn't we? I think the car here looks great. The Williams car here looks absolutely fantastic. Bit of a platypus nose as well. I think when Megan gets to the commentary box later on, she's going to be calling it Perry the Platypus. But I think they were running slightly behind with development, and they hadn't got the whole car together yet. But I think this year, what I'm noticing this year, the cars are a lot more sleeker, which I didn't think would be possible. But they are a little bit more back to basics, a little more sleek, and hopefully running a lot closer. I know you look at the timing screen and go, oh, well, Verstappen's ahead by a tenth and a half, but no, that's testing. I would believe it when we get to day 3, the last test. That's when we'll see some proper differences. Leclerc, though, on a longer run, he's on those tyres and having a proper run in it. So he's on race run simulation for Charles Leclerc with an hour 34 to go in this morning session. Beth also saying, and I see Red Bull has the same blanking plate over the nose as it didn't launch. What do you make of that? Yeah, bizarre, that front wing at Red Bull. I've got information that we are going to have Red Bull very much ease themselves into day one. And then later on in the afternoon session, they'll switch it and they'll be on the full 24 car. But as Ant said as well, a second ago with the side pods, they're going to start slowly unveiling the full car throughout this test. And then by the time we get to race 1 in a week's time, which is on a Saturday, remember everybody, bang, it will be fine. We'll all go for it. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. So it's going to be good. Let's hand back over to Rachel and Ant as Leclerc. Actually, let's see out Leclerc's lap, because he's at turn 13 and he's on a race run. So I want to see what the difference is between it. Good to see you too, Beth, for another year. Good to see you again. I can't wait. Was it our 4th year now in the comms box? It's going to be fun. So nice to see you as well. Hopefully you had a lovely summer over there, of course, in Australia. Leclerc across the line, and it's 1 second off the pace. So the race run, 1:34.161, isn't actually as bad as I believed it would be, which is very decent for Charles. We'll keep an eye on his times throughout, and we'll open up the battle screen to do that and hand over to Rachel and Ant.
We'll be able to, no doubt, go into more detailed analysis. Take it away, Sam.
Absolutely right, Anne. It is all about aerodynamics, but there are some mechanical considerations as well. Red Bull, Max Verstappen, you see him sitting in his garage there getting ready to go out for a run. They have a pull rod front suspension, which means the diagonal spindly bit at the front wheel goes downwards from the outside to the middle of the car, because all of the suspension components, the springs and dampers, they're not coil springs, they're torsion bar springs on most cars. They're mounted at the bottom of the car, the bottom of the chassis. That lowers the centre of gravity height significantly. It's in theory better aerodynamically, according to some teams. Other teams don't agree, of course. And you can see it's just mounted at the bottom of the chassis there. That makes it much, much harder to make suspension adjustments. Mechanically, it's far more complicated. Then you've got layouts like the Williams. Here you can see it with the nose off, which is quite a nice shot. You can see it's a push rod front suspension, so the diagonal bit goes from the low point on the wheel upwards to the chassis, and all of its suspension components are mounted up on the top, underneath that number 23 for Alex Albon. That makes it much easier to work on the car. It's in theory slightly lighter, and it's just a simpler solution. And some teams, Williams clearly one of them, don't believe it's a big aerodynamic disadvantage. So it's a little bit reversed at the rear of the car, because it's a more complicated area of the car, because you've got the gearbox, and the gearbox layout defines the layout of the rear suspension. And actually, not every team makes its own gearbox. So Red Bull, for example, does make its own gearbox, but they also supply that gearbox to the RB team. So the RB team has to use the same layout as Red Bull. Mercedes, they supply gearboxes to Aston Martin, to Williams, and they have to use the Mercedes layout, whichever Mercedes choose. Ferrari, though, at the rear of their car, they've decided to go quite a different way to everybody else, and they've stuck with the opposite design to everybody else. They've gone for a pull rod rear suspension, and the Haas have to use that as well. The Kick Sauber team, they make their own gearbox now as they get ready to be turned into Audi, and so they've gone for the same route as everybody else, including Red Bull, which is the push rod rear, because that gives you a little bit more space for the diffuser and rear aerodynamics, at least in theory. So it's all about the mechanical gubbinses of the car, but actually aerodynamics is king of everything in reality.
Isn't it just?
Thank
you very much, Sam.
Kind of like what I said, but better.
I mean, I didn't want to say, but yes. Max Verstappen is back out again on those yellow marked C3
tyre. C3 tyre.
3 tyres.
Yeah.
Sorry. C3. Sorry. 4 is the C4 is the red tyre.
So that's going to be our softest tyre that we have next week.
Danny Ricciardo and Yuki Tsunoda. I'm going to struggle calling them RB, because that's what I get called, because they're my initials.
Oh, of course.
So I get called RB all the time, so now I'm getting really confused.
You're going to be looking around over your shoulder all the time.
I'm doing that all the time. So I hope they have a good season. Otherwise, it could be quite awkward for me.
It'll look good on your CV.
Great on my CV. Talking of somebody who's got a great CV, Ted Kravitz. He's down in the pit lane for us at the moment. Ted.
Thank you, Rachel. Hello, Rach. Hello, Ant. Hello, everybody. Again from the pit lane. Yes, Rachel, both you and in Formula One at least, Rubens Barrichello, Ross Brawn and Ruth Buscombe also have those issues with RB. But yeah, RB's fine for the rest of us. Right, talking about suspension. Sorry I've been away, by the way. I've been recording a bit for this evening's testing notebook, where I tried to sum up everything that's happened in Formula One over the winter in 60 seconds. And Rachel, do you think I managed it?
Yes, Ted, I have absolute faith. Oh.
I didn't. It took me about 90, it took me about a minute 12. So I couldn't even do that. But yeah, you'll be able to see what that is later. But just to let you know what's happening at Williams, wondering why they're not out on track at the moment. They're trying something different on the front suspension. So a different solution to not only the front suspension torsion bars, but I'm also seeing a ride height adjustment and maybe a camber change as well. So one of those things that they do, just to go through the range of suspension options. And you know, when you're sort of describing pull rod or push rod, as you have been over the last few minutes, I like to sort of do a little experiment with my hands. And here's one that you can do. If you pretend that your fist is the tyre, and then the push rod, you can put the side of your hand. That's fine for the chassis. So push rod is your finger pushing against it like that. That's on the Williams. You can see the suspension upright going into the side of the chassis. It's a push rod, and as the tyre takes some load, or the car goes into heave, which is up and down, or yaw, and you can imagine the push rod pushing against. That's quite a natural thing. Invert it, that's the tyre, and that's the pull rod, and imagine the pull rod being pulled out. Then it's being pulled out by the rocker and the suspension arm insides from underneath. It feels a little bit different. It feels sort of physically, kinematically, if you want to say that, a little bit not what you would normally do with a suspension arm, having it pull out something from the chassis, almost that it's going to pull out the bit itself and separate the wheel from the chassis. It doesn't happen, of course, but yeah, as you've been saying, it's mainly aerodynamic rather than kinematic, because they sort of do the same things, and Williams have decided to go push rod at the front, and I believe they have kept with push rod. They've gone to push rod at the back, albeit a very narrow angle, as you were saying, because Mercedes have gone that way through, and they use a Mercedes gearbox. So yeah, I'll leave you to some images of the front of the Williams, and quite detailed changes that are going on. By the way, Rachel and Anthony, have you had a word about the fat noses? I just went past Alpine, and their nose is really, really rotund, isn't it? Really wide, really flat, really fat. And this Williams is actually quite a sort of fat nose as well. I will get to the bottom between now and the end of testing of exactly why that is, why we're seeing none of the slim noses that we saw last year.
Great. I look forward to it, Ted. I would say, actually, on the Aston Martin as well, they have the colouring, the green colouring on the nose, and then at the bottom, it's back to carbon fibre.
Oh,
and it's in the way, and it's shaped in the way that some, and you won't understand this, but some dresses are, in that you have a panel down the middle that's a light colour, and down the sides you have black, and it gives you gives you a slimmer silhouette, and it feels like that's what's been done on the Aston Martin. When you look at the nose of the Aston Martin, it has a slimmer silhouette, but actually when you look at it closely in the light, you will see it's just as wide and fat as everyone else's.
Very well described. Yeah, it makes complete sense. And I mean, it's not just about the saving of weight, is it? You know, with all the extra carbon fibre panels and areas that we're seeing on these cars, as they still struggle to meet the weight limits that's quite aggressively set, I must say, by the FIA within the regulations, and that's why we see so much black area on the cars. It's just carbon fibre. They really can't afford to put the paint on in literal terms, of course, but in terms of weight, it is a currency to them.
But these cars are the heaviest they'll be all season, though, right now, aren't they, at testing? I mean, they will find ways where they lose weight throughout the rest of the car, and the paint will come on towards the end. They will be more colourful by the end of the season.
I hope so. I hope so, because I think it's quite a serious issue. I think for the fans, they like seeing the differences between the cars, liveries, and we don't want to see the cars mostly painted black. We want to see them have their own identity. And I think the fans really, they deserve that. They deserve to see the cars and teams able to showcase the differences between the liveries, the cars out there. And personally, I don't like seeing them struggling to meet that weight limit and having to resort to taking away colour from the car.
We've got a new top time on the board. Max Verstappen, a 1:32.548. He has taken that benchmark down. It's now 0.6 of a second, the gap between him and Charles Leclerc. Correction, it's at 0.699, as you can see on your timing screens. So it's a 0.7 difference. Unbelievable. Why is Mercedes not out on the track? Russell did do some laps this morning. In fact, George Russell, who is last on the board, has done 19 laps, which is the least of everybody so far. And the garage doors have got the shutters on them as well, so they've got the covers over. So we'll double check what's going on there. McLaren, quite interestingly, not shutting everybody out at testing. Now, usually, there was a rule that was introduced a couple of years ago where it says you can't bring the covers across your door unless you're removing the floor and doing work on the car. You have to leave them open so that the fans and us watching can see at home. So there is a few differences, but Mercedes not on the track at the moment. Russell only done 19 laps. I believe they're doing some setup changes as well to go in later on. But right now, track temperature at 23. Well, track temperature is at 38.7, air temperature 23.9. So it's not the best running conditions, but we'll see what they get because the tyres will get chewed up, of course, at this stage. But as soon as Russell comes out on the track, we'll see it on the driver track and we'll be able to understand exactly where he's going to go. Alonso out there, followed by Ocon, and then Verstappen is coming in towards turns 9 and 10 at the moment. So he is circulating and following and moving along swiftly as well. So 1 hour 22 to go. We'll hand back over to the world feed.
As that continues to rubber in today, the circuit will improve in speed, but then it starts to get hotter. And the wind usually picks up here more in the afternoon as well. And that diminishes the progression of the track that it naturally would get. If it just stayed stable temperatures and wind condition, you'd just see the lap times on a nice plot on the graphs getting faster and faster and faster. The car would feel nicer and nicer. No matter what you did to it, you'd be saying, yeah, that setup change is better. Oh yeah, even this one, that's another improvement again. Whereas today ends up staying quite flat in its progression, because as the track rubbers in, it also gets hotter and more windy.
But then it gets cooler because we're running until 7 o'clock tonight. So do you not cover most of the conditions you'll face across the season apart from rain?
Exactly. So later on, it will have, you know, the race takes part in the dark here, as you went dusk to dark. So the track continues to get faster and faster, and that's what they're going to experience later on today. But tomorrow morning, when they hit the track at the same time they did today, it's going to feel much improved from how they end today. And it's very easy, therefore, to start getting lost in what setup changes have a bigger influence in terms of a positive change or a negative change. Sometimes you put something on the car and you try.
Oh, Max is going to do a practice start. Now this will be fun because look at his telemetry data, we'll be able to see it. So he's number 1 and he's going to do a practice start. Ready? So builds up the revs, put it about 12,000 RPM, drop the clutch. Not a good start at all from Verstappen, you can see it. And he's backed off immediately coming out of the pit lane as well. And even on the map you can see, not a good start at all there for Max. Out of 10, I'd rate that about a 4. That Red Bull needs to have a bit of a practice start go around.
Much worse. Or at best, it was a transparent change. And I used to love that in my testing days. Really having
you used to love getting lost?
No, just having to stay disciplined and having to stay honest with what setup change was genuinely better or worse, and going through it very scientifically. Well, no, and your driving has to stay consistent as well. So getting yourself up to speed as a driver is super important, and they will be dialing themselves in a lot of the time through this first day. It takes longer than you think, actually, to get right up to speed, where you can slap a new set of tyres on and nail it every time within a couple of tenths of each other. So you need the consistency from your driving. That's where better drivers out there will be an advantage, because you can start working through the testing program more methodically and accurately, more importantly, than other drivers that are taking longer to get up to speed. And that's what I like to see, the skill of the driver really coming into it.
Just having a look at the Red Bull rear wing as part of their upgrades this year, which kind of surprised everybody. The last team to launch, weren't they, as well? The last team to show off what they were bringing, and then everybody was surprised, which, as we were talking to Jolien about earlier on, it's great to see them still innovating despite dominating last year, despite walking away with the championship with more than double the points of their nearest rival in the constructors, and Max winning it so easily. They are still innovating.
And you look at that car coming towards you down that main straight, it's just straight as a dart, isn't it? It does not move. They've completely mastered the attitude of the car. Look at it, absolutely so. That's what you want for the aerodynamics. You don't want it to be diving around or bouncing and porpoising. And even the Red Bull in 2022, we were raving about its ride quality, but wow, it looks so stuck down now. Even in the straight line, it's so smooth the way it rides the bumps. Very impressive. When you think, I mean, it's like almost like looking at an active ride car, the active ride suspension. It's like it's got these fancy road cars you get today with air suspension and active ride. It looks like one of those coming towards you, not a car that should be heavily influenced by, in a mechanical sense, the bumps on the track. It's really masterful how they've managed to make it look so well poised there. Because you watch any other category of racing that comes here, so I come here for the World Endurance Championship, for example. It was the last race of last year, and the cars buckaroo and bounce all the way down the straight, and it really highlights this track for what it is. It is a bumpy racetrack.
But the Red Bull making it look not so.
At this point, yeah.
Verstappen across the line then on a race run simulation and does a 1:36.599. His best lap is a 1:32.548. So not too shabby. Ocon's got DRS behind him through turns 1 and 2 as well. So as Daniel Ricciardo's on the RB pit wall. And looks like as well, Laurent Mikis, who's the now team principal of Visa Cash App RB, is keeping his eye on his old Ferrari team and also on that of McLaren of Piastri. Interesting. Oh, and well, he's got one eye on Tsunoda, one eye on Leclerc. Interesting. So we look at the airflow paint coming up on Yuki Tsunoda. The entire front wing has been covered with the aero paint. It's gone into the suspension, into the aero ducts as well, and just trying to make sure that it's all, I don't want to say okay, but it's interesting to look at, I think is the key factor there. So it's a nice early start here. And what is the local time over there? 11:41 was it there, so it's coming up to lunchtime. Hour 16. It's an hour break. We will be live in the afternoon on JB Motorsports 2 on Instagram. And then everything will be uploaded on JB Motorsports itself as well. So if you're here, we'll create the stream just after this first one, and we'll be live, ready to go for the next session. So if you're watching here, we'll be live for the PM session on JB Motorsports 2. Let's hand back over.
Different front wing to a race last year. And going up to it and looking at the changes that were so minute but had such an impact on the airflow on the car.
Absolutely, and again, you know, it's no fluke that or coincidence that they've heavily painted the suspension as well at the front of the car. That's nothing to do with mechanical grip or balance, pure aerodynamics.
And that's the car I was talking about a little earlier on that had the new floor towards the end of last season and saw some real improvements from it. Okay, so back to what we were talking about in testing then. Wasn't in your day, you didn't get to run an afternoon session or when you were last in the car?
Well, we had no simulation. We had no driver simulators when I was racing. So that's another thing that's really improved.
It was tough in your day, wasn't it? It was much harder in your day.
Well, I mean, physically, yeah, because we were doing about 15,000 kilometres of testing.
Was it unlimited?
I think it wasn't, you know. We had a whole separate testing team within the team itself. And we're going to see probably running wide in turn 4. It should be, the wind is on your side actually turning into that corner, but you go through the crosswind as you go through it, and so they're turning in with pretty good grip, and it's probably disappearing a bit as they go through the corner. It's a very tricky corner, turn 4. Very, very tricky, because it dips down, it's cambered, not in your favour, so negative camber, so it catches the car quite awkwardly on the exit, and it's either the rear trying to let go or the front pushes on. But yeah, things start to get a bit easier after that, and the higher speed of 6 and 7. And here's Oscar Piastri into the final corner. I always get beaten up for this in the simulator when I refer to turn 14 as the final corner, because there are 15 corners.
You just don't consider 15 as a corner, so...
Not really. It can catch you out if you haven't prepared 14 properly.
Well, George Russell is out. Mercedes say just been doing some usual testing changes. That's why he was in the garage for so long. So the only car still in the pit lane right now is Kevin Magnussen for Haas, and Ted's down there for his Ted.
Thank you, Rachel. Yes, so nothing to worry about, say, Mercedes. I can tell you that Sauber have just made a nose and front wing change to Valtteri Bottas. So he's just trying a different spec front wing and nose cone on his run that you're seeing at the moment on the timing. And at Haas, it seems to be some sort of fuel system related issue that they've been trying to figure out. So if you can see this mechanic with his arm buried deep into the fuel area, I don't know if it's actually the fuel tank itself or just in this area around it. That seems to be the issue that they've been grappling with. So, unlike Mercedes, who've already had the filming day yesterday and are just making the usual testing changes, this does seem to be something that's gone slightly wrong and that they need to fix. Now, of course, I know it's a truism, but it's worth repeating. When each driver has only got a day and a half, and the team themselves have only got 3 days to sort their cars out before the start of the season, and that's it. To gather all the data they need for the driver to get all the practice he needs, and for them to work on reliability, having, what's this, the second little reliability issue of the day after the rate came off. I suppose they can't really call that a reliability issue, but it stopped them anyway. For Haas, isn't the greatest start to testing so far, but this has kept them in the garage. There's the new boss, Ao Komatsu, on the right-hand side, as we look at it. So this has kept them in the garage for, what has it been, half an hour, I think? Rachel, probably half an hour, 40 minutes, something like that?
Something like that.
Looks
32
like
laps.
just about,
Yeah, they've got on the board.
Yeah. Looks like they're just about done with the repair. So that's good news. And if you look on the right-hand side, talking about Sauber, such as the preponderance, the enthusiasm which they're embracing fluoro green. Whenever you see, I've got to tell you, whenever you see anything else fluoro green in the pit lane, you think, oh, the team borrowed this off Sauber. So it's a really weird sense, because when you do go down to the Sauber garage, I mean, everything. If it's got a surface, they are going to throw fluoro green at it, and that also extends, I've got to tell you, to the pit box itself. I don't know if you've noticed it, Rachel. I think you're coming down to relieve me in a minute, or you'll come down and have a look. You know the pit boxes, which are normally decked out in white or yellow tape. Well, have you seen this? That also at Sauber here is fluoro green.
Okay.
There you go. So yeah. Wow. If it's got carbon fibre, or if it's living, breathing, or not, paint it green. That's the philosophy down here at Sauber.
Well, Ted, you're looking very well next to the green. You can actually, I think you probably carry it. Oh, I'm not sure, actually. I was going to say you can carry it off. It's a very difficult green to carry off. Thank you very much, Ted.
Could use that as a green screen, couldn't he? Put him anywhere.
You could, actually. That's a very good point. Stand in front of it, and he could be anywhere in the world. But he is, in fact, at the Sauber garage. This is Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martin on track right now, and currently third fastest with a 1:33.3, so 8/10 behind the lap Max Verstappen has put on the board, which was a 1:32 a little earlier, actually. He broke the 1:32, so Fernando going around now. Some good mileage, 51 laps for the Aston Martin, the most of any team so far today.
Yeah, it's looked good in terms of reliability. It's looked good when I was out on the circuit earlier on. I still think it was at that particular time the best car through turn one. He could get the car turned very nicely. The rear looked good as he started to get on power, and then build the speed through turn two, where you need to rely a bit more towards the aerodynamic performance of the car, and even there it looked really good. So they've hit the ground running with Aston Martin and Fernando Alonso, and it looks like they're now working on a race run on the C3 tyre, the medium, which will be the next week's soft tyre. And yeah, there we go. So 7 or maybe 8 seconds. Yeah, 8 seconds off the fastest time, which is a sure sign that the car is heavy, older tyres, race run spec, a managed battery state of charge as well. So you're not giving it full beans for that one lap. You're in that happy equilibrium between. It's a bit of give and take really for the battery when you're in the race run. It seeks a bit of harvesting from the kinetic side from the car, and then delivers some battery power as well. And you're always trying to keep the state of charge of the battery somewhere in the middle on a race run. But for a qualifying or a shorter run attempt, you'll be more aggressive, it'll be more deployment than harvesting, and therefore you get a lot more speed. It can be up to a second's worth or more of performance.
Dan Fallows saying that you'll see obvious differences on this Aston Martin, the nose and the front wing, but he says there are lots you won't see. We've gone for a lighter, more aerodynamically efficient race car that will operate across a wider range of circuits. But one of the teams, as I mentioned earlier, to say they've got a good platform for development, and it's an evolution, a strong evolution of their car from last year, which started very well, dipped away in the middle of the season, and then they seemed to find some answers again slightly towards the end.
I think most of them will just be a strong evolution from last year's car. Some, more towards heavier development. But again, I think the cost cap really restricts you in terms of how, and also the actual regulations of these cars. I mean, we heard it right from the word go that they were quite restrictive from the regulations. That's why they all end up looking fairly similar straight away. And, very little variation in design from this modern, this current generation of Formula 1 car.
Ted's down at Alpine. Ted.
Well, let's have a look. One thing that testing is also about is to check that everything's legal. So have a look at this at Alpine. They're about to do a nose change. But look at the stickers on the inside of the end plate. That's connected to a camera. So either side, see the FI logo on this new nose. That's a camera in the camera mounting. It's a camera that belongs to Alpine, and it's looking at those points, what look like sort of basic QR codes on the inside of the end plate, and that is to measure the flexion of the front wing, because they have to check that it's doing what they want aerodynamically, but they also have to check that it's not going to flex too much. The outer parts of that front wing is not going to flex too much beyond the legality, and the only way of doing that, to be sure, as well as measuring it with sensors, is to do it this way with the camera. It's the kind of thing that we've seen before, haven't we, Rach and Anthony? We've seen teams put little dots or something on the inside. It's not actually by regulation, whereas the dots on the rear wing to measure rear wing deflection is something they have to do by regulation. But yeah, looking close up at this Alpine, it's actually a very tidy car. They've taken some weight out of the car, not least with not very much paint or stickers, and tidied up the other bits, not least to the rear suspension, the gearbox, the changes at the rear they wanted to make. And the front seems sensible as well. They've gone with the full span front wing flaps, sort of unlike Mercedes. Again with the fat nose on the Alpine. Rachel, what is it with these fat noses? Why have they got so much wider rather than last year? But as I say, I will find out. More of a kind of Red Bull Ferrari inspired from last year side pod entries, but with a nicely sized undercut towards the rear of the car as well. So yeah, you see Esteban Ocon with that different front wing. I'm sure they'll make another change before his next run.
Great, thank you, Ted. They might also be picking out a few bits of gravel, mightn't they, Ant? We just saw him go off there as you were talking, Ted, on a replay. Quite a big moment for him.
Yeah, he just lost the rear. It snapped on him. It's what the drivers called a snap oversteer moment. Getting on power. I mentioned turn 4 earlier on. It either understeers progressively or can have the rear let go. But that was quite a wild snap. And he did well to keep the car pointing in a fairly straight line, but obviously dragged him off the circuit and through that little bit of gravel as well, which can do damage not just to the front wing, but also to the underside of the car as well. The floor, that very delicate floor that we were talking about earlier on. Any kind of damage to that floor is going to be quite costly in lap time, as we saw from the likes of Fernando Alonso in Barcelona qualifying last year, where just a one small trip through the gravel on the exit of the final corner in, I think it was Q2, maybe it was even Q1, and he waved goodbye to a lot of performance there that particular day. So yeah, damage the floor from a small moment like that, and it ends up being a much more costly mistake than you'd imagine.
Ferrari have called this season Operation Relaunch.
Operation Relaunch,
which is quite a bold statement. It certainly suggests almost going back to the drawing board, doesn't it? But they actually had some good development last year.
Yeah, I mean, you'd say, I know they finished behind Mercedes ultimately in the championship, but they're the ones that won a race, other than Red Bull. The only team that won a race, and I think they've always got a pretty decent car here as well. Actually, in qualifying, the car looks pretty good to drive. Maybe a little bit too hard on its tyres still in race trim, and I think that's what all the other teams have to unlock going forward from last season, as Leclerc goes a bit wide in turn 13. Yeah, the teams have to. One thing, just seeing there again, compared to the Red Bull, the car's bouncing a lot.
It is bouncing.
And that's one thing that Ferrari have never seemed to completely get rid of in their car. And yeah, you see it there, just the front just fluttering up and down. Those inconsistencies of ride height change, and sparking away again as it goes over the bumps before turn one. Just it just seems like they still haven't fixed that, which I see as a bit of a weak link in their design philosophy at Ferrari. And they was just losing the rear in 13 as we saw the effects of real time. So yeah, it's just, you go through a lot of crosswind in turn 13. It's a long corner, you spend a lot of time in it, and therefore you go through the whole range of the wind coming towards the front of the car, then more to the side of the car, then towards the rear of the car as you exit finally the corner, depending on where the winds get. And you also get a bit of a swirl effect as well as the other cars circulate the track at that point. It's quite high up. I think it's the highest point of the track. There's not a huge elevation change here. It's around 40 meters, I think, by memory. But yeah, you're at the highest point of the track up there.
As we have a close look at Max Verstappen lap.
Yeah, so here he comes to, well, it's a bit of a mix-up of different corners. So this is 9 and 10. The car tucks in well there. And yeah, once again, he's looking at the car, even in the straight line, it's just so nice in its ride control, I'd say. And that really favours the, it goes a long way to benefiting the aero performance of the car, but also for the driver as well. I mean, with pinpoint accuracy, being able to pick your braking point. If the driver's not bouncing around as much as we saw Leclerc's head, it's nothing like it used to be, obviously, in 22 and last season. But it's you know, if you can give the driver a bit more comfort as well, you will unlock more performance from them, not just from the car.
That's got to be the most valuable notebook in the paddock, hasn't it, that notebook?
Adrian Newey watching on.
Adrian Newey's arm there.
Yeah, what other team
love
would
to see
give
what's
to
in that notebook. I
nick
probably
that
wouldn't
book.
understand any of it, but I would love to see what's in that notebook. Right, that isn't.
Just interesting enough, if you're watching along, look, the team colours have come back.
Is in fact, yeah, the RB, but it has a lot of flowers. Sorry, Ant, you're saying.
So Noda says, I guess the wind has picked up a bit. So the team colours have finally popped, and that's how our new system looks in this year. It wasn't just black and white. We've got the team colours finally working. So well done, Multiviewer. Well done, guys. Fantastic group of people to watch F1 timings with. And they're more reliable than the T-Feed and F1.com was. And look at it. Look at it. Look at it. Looks fantastic, doesn't it? We've got two different angles. Does it good. Oh, what was Yuki Tsunoda then? As he exits turn number 10 down the straight towards turn 11. Continues to push as hard as he can. Lifts off, turns in, gradually puts the power back down. Does look good. Very nice setup he's got running right now. Let's hand back over.
Yeah, so I'm going to have to change my style a bit, learn where to brake a bit earlier or later for different corners and what that's going to do to the balance of the car.
I literally wrote down at 10 past 11, winds headwind into turn 1. And within an hour and a half, or just over an hour and a half, that's changed into more of a crosswind across there. But this is one of those tracks, Ant, as I was saying, you actually can see the flags pointing in one direction at one end and in a different direction at the other end, which is not helpful, at the end of a straight, which is not helpful.
There is that flag.
There is that flag.
Sits on top of the tower, and yeah, so from the pit lane, the drivers will be able to just look out, have a look up there, and you can see straight away. And it looks like, yeah, still a bit of a headwind into turn 1. I mean, you can see how fierce it is as well, actually. When I was standing down there, it didn't, yeah, and the trees flapping around in the wind, it didn't feel as bad as that. So yeah, Yuki's right. He's felt it in the car, and his engineer has confirmed it.
Don't stand near a car in the pit lane, by the way, when it comes out with Clover's paint on.
Someone's got to.
I've got some trainers at home that are splattered.
Yeah, someone's got a tough job there to clean that up.
That's going to be a lot of effort this afternoon. As we mentioned earlier, actually, we have got guests coming in as well. Felipe Dragovic will be talking to us. We'll have us hear from Pat Fry, Pat Simmons, James Bowles and James Key today as well throughout the rest of this first day of pre-season testing. Max Verstappen then still topping the times with a 1:32.5. Charles Leclerc second quickest so far with a 1:33. But laps on the board count around here, and it's the most for Fernando Alonso, third quickest, but 55 laps on the time so far in the Aston Martin. And George Russell just 24.
Right, this car, the Haas, Kevin Magnussen, hasn't looked brilliant so far. When I was standing down there at turn 1, it looked like the most tricky car to navigate through that part of the circuit. So, yeah, keen to ride on board and stay with him here through turn 13. He comes, picks up a bit of understeer in mid-corner, that one. The rear not quite there for him as he tries to apply the power, just stepping out ever so slightly, and that takes away a bit of confidence from inside the cockpit, rolls the car into the final corner, turn 14, even though there were 15 of them. And looked like a little bit of a better balance there. He didn't really push the apex too much, or the braking zone too much, I should say. You can hear the harvesting of the engine, the kinetic just doing its thing before he even comes to the braking point. Turn 1, can't really pinch it as tight. This is what I was seeing when I was down there. He couldn't really pinch the car as tight as he'd want to through the apex of 1, and he's picking up a bit of understeer, which then compromises the line through turn 2. Turn 4, waiting for the front, waiting for the front. The rear seems okay on the exit there, but he had to wait for it. He didn't have the full confidence, and again, really taking it quite slowly through turn 6 and 7. The understeer picking up again. He's locked up into turn 8, and the driver on his outside. Is that Aston Martin? No, it was George Russell actually in the Mercedes. Probably wondering, why are you so close to me on the exit? He wouldn't have seen the lockup necessarily. So yeah, it still looks a bit of a handful, having ridden a whole lap now on board with Magnussen. I know he's on the hard tyre, but it's still, it's not really there for him. And again, the understeer just pushing him on through turn 11.
And they brought that update, that big update to Austin. Didn't quite work out as planned. They were hoping for much more from it. They've even said they expect to be at the back of the field almost at the start of this season, while they try and work on this car and develop. I'm going to leave you, Anthony Davidson, in very, very capable hands of Alex Gates. As I depart the commentary box for the time being, and we'll be back this afternoon. But I'll leave you in the capable hands of him. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about this hat?
Thank you very much, Rachel. Yeah, so back onto the main straight here. I'm just looking for the driver's head as well to see the level of bouncing
a bit,
that we've got going on. It doesn't seem too bad on this race run for Magnussen. Into the braking zone we come now. Can you pinch it a bit tighter this time in 1? I just go away from him there. This is the moment I saw through turn 6 and 7. He was already out of kilter in a way from the understeer he had in the higher speed, and that's what led in many ways to the lockup in turn 8.
He almost hit George Russell. It was very close, actually, as Anthony said. Magnussen turns in, gets on the curb, locks up in the front right, and just drifts almost into George Russell. Russell having to sort of go, as Ant said, why are you so close? But it was just a small lockup. Literally nothing he could do. And it was very close to being contact. But still, good stuff there from both to avoid action. Tsunoda, Magnussen and Russell out on the track at the moment with less than an hour to go here in pre-season testing. Day number 1, morning session. Another 4 hours to go this afternoon.
Nice to see you. Very rare do we get the chance to speak on air together these days.
It's true, isn't it? Yeah.
It is one of the joys of F1 testing. And we thank Rachel Brooks, who will be back with you later on. We're looking down there at Ao Komatsu, new team principal at Haas. One of the things he talked about at the launch was bringing the drivers more into the process of developing the car. Now, devotees will remember the infamous year where they had to go back to the launch spec with, in the Romain Grosjean era. They had to go back to the launch spec because none of the updates were working. He says he wants to change that. Now, not to inflate your ego too much, Mr. Davidson, but you are well known for your excellent driver feedback.
Am I?
Or at least you were.
I was.
In yesteryear. So I put to you, where's the balance for a team between listening to the driver when they get out of the car and listening to every single detail, and then knowing when the team knows best, a balance that you could argue Haas have never quite mastered, despite their success being a new team that have scored points in Formula One throughout their time in the sport.
And there was another test driver, of course, with Mick Schumacher down at Mercedes. And, you know, the team do rely on not just the test drivers, but it's more so today than ever before, the race drivers, because track time is so limited and the drivers love tests like this on the circuit where you're going to race. I know some people have issues with that and say, well, what extra content is it going to bring to race week? The fact that they can iron out all of their problem or potential problems in multiple days of testing. But yeah, the race drivers, they do have, particularly they have a lot of say in where you take the design of the car, the development of the car, and actually more often than not, it's what's perceived as the faster driver has more authority in where to take the design or the balance of the car. We hear that, you know, quite often. Say we hear rumours from Red Bull, for example. Oh, Max Verstappen starts the season, doesn't really like the car that much. He's quite close in performance to Sergio Perez. As the year unfolds, there's a natural separation of performance. Max gets into the groove. He starts tuning the car to how he wants, blah, 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 blah. And you see the end result. So, yeah, it's that, to some extent, you know, that bears some weight. But the team, there is a balance, you know. The team have the data that comes from the wind tunnel, and I think they're kind of like their own entity, the wind tunnel. It's a very secretive operation.
Yeah.
I mean, not many people in the factory have a key card to get into the wind tunnel department. And that's with it all in-house. The problem with somewhere like Haas is that it's very segmented. I think that is part of the problem there, in that, you know, the wind tunnel it's not in Banbury. That, you know, the Banbury is pretty much just a workshop, from what I gather. Maybe some design parts come from the car there, but that's where the car is put together, essentially. And the wind tunnel's elsewhere, and, you know, very fractious team in that respect. And it can work, of course it can work like that, but you know, I think communication is definitely key, and that's, you know, one key element to that communication is obviously the driver's detailed feedback and what they feel from the car.
And I'm thinking, it's other teams, but I'm thinking of, say, the update that Mercedes brought in Austin, where they said, oh, it's not actually worth that much time on the racetrack, but it unlocked performance from Lewis Hamilton. Similar thing for Charles Leclerc. Wasn't a huge amount of lap time for Ferrari when they brought the update to Japan, but it unlocked Charles being able to drive the car the way he wanted, and we saw certainly on one lap pace towards the end of the year, 3 pole positions out of the final 5 qualifying sessions. Just the reason I asked it, just intrigued whether, now that they've got a team principal who's been talking about changing some processes there, some workflows there, maybe the balance might be more towards the driver and the people.
Yeah, you know, I think underestimate the driver's feel at your peril. Yeah. You know, because like you just heard there, Yuki Tsunoda, straight away on it, that the wind has changed. Wind has changed, yeah? That's a statement. It's not a question. Yeah. He's felt it, and he's wanting validation to his feelings. So if a driver can feel that the wind has changed, then of course they're going to feel the difference between how the car feels on with these new brakes that you might have put on, or a new suspension design that you're running, or of course the aerodynamic effect of the car. They're going to pick up these things. They can feel the difference between a couple of PSI of tyre pressure difference. So you have to take their comments seriously. You have to rely on what they can give in terms of feedback, particularly a driver like Fernando Alonso, that you look back on here from this great onboard shot, looking at the pro at work. And, you know, he's going to be full of information after this day, and he's going to sit down with the team, take them through and a debrief. This is better than last year's car, this bit maybe not so much improved, and go through a whole array of exactly what he feels with the car and where from this moment the team can make even more progress. And if you ignore that, then yeah,
with Fernando, you'll definitely be hearing.
You'll be hearing again. He's not going to keep quiet, but yeah, sometimes it is ignored, and all the drivers have a very good feel for what their car's doing under them. But the trouble is that some drivers have differences of feeling between one side of the garage and the other as well. Different driving styles come into play, which kind of muddies the water, really.
As Fernando Alonso goes over the line to complete his 58th tour of this 14-turn circuit. And he continues on for another run. 47 minutes to go of the opening session of pre-season testing. 4 hours in the morning, 4 hours in the afternoon for a couple more days after this one, and then the opening Grand Prix of the year on a Saturday, which I'm going to keep saying so that there's no one out there who accidentally tunes in one day too late, because we wouldn't want that at all. We've got another rare treat in the commentary box now, where we've been joined by roamer of the pit lane extraordinaire,
Ted?
Mr. Ted Kravitz.
Ted's in the pit lane!
Very
Get
well.
in!
Hello, Alex. Hello, Anthony. Hello, everybody. Yes, good morning if you're still watching us.
Ted's in the cut box!
Back in the UK or Europe, where I believe it is still the morning. Good afternoon.
Can we get Combox
good
cam?
evening if you're watching us in Australia and around the world. Yeah, it is the afternoon here. So I've done two things when I first walked into the commentary box. First of all, I've turned the temperature down because, as Anthony will tell you, Alex, that's what I do in every room I go into in hot climates. Is
You make yourself comfortable, Ted.
I intend to. I mean, not for very long, but while I'm here, in hot climates. And the second thing I've done is eschew. Eschew, that's a word. Eschew.
It is a word.
I've said thanks, but no thanks
To the chair.
to the chair. Because you forget who taught me. You forget where I'm from,
I don't.
You forget, Anthony Davidson, when the last time I was in a commentary box, who I was alongside.
You were alongside the Don, Murray Walker.
I was.
This is where you started, Ted.
And it was.
I'm
Well,
sitting
I think
down
in the
because of the
combo,
cross cam.
As the combo, well,
Specifically, I started in the airless room of the back of a TV outside broadcast van, logging the sessions. So it was only halfway through 1997 when I
graduated
into the commentary box. But yeah, Murray never used a chair. Martin Brundle doesn't use a chair very much. David Croft, the other Don, the doyen, the one with yourself, I don't believe where the uses a chair particularly much. Or Anthony, you'll be able to tell me.
Not so much. Sometimes, yes. Sometimes he will sit down, but yeah, I'd say more often than not, he's standing up.
Good.
In the need to project.
To project. It opens up your lungs. It gives you a sense of
does.
immediacy.
It
I know
does.
You've got to do 85 hours a day here. So you might.
Yeah, if this was the opening Grand Prix of the year, I'm absolutely on my feet.
Oh, I'm standing up as well, but
You've got to ease yourself into testing.
But
with
let me give you some
Alex.
tales from the pit lane,
Please do.
because this seems to be the time of day where everybody's going through a bit of nuts and bolts. Practice starts, I'm seeing a lot of them, legality checks, fuel systems checks, all the kind of nuts and bolts that they know. This is the heat of the day. It is getting quite hot down there now. What are we up to? Track temperature 39.8, so 40 degrees, air temperature 24. It feels more or less that. But here we go, there's a replay for you, Anthony.
Yes, it's George Russell coming down the main straight. A little bit of bounce in there, we could just hear it. Just hear it under my voice there, and again, yeah, still a little bit of touching. It's going to happen down in turn one, though. That's the critical part. And yeah, it seems to be able to get the car turned pretty well. Ride, you'd have to say, not as good as the Red Bull. Oh yeah, definitely not as good as the Red Bull. Very low there, and crashing into that the biggest bump on the track. So that's one of the biggest hits I've seen actually from any car. So yeah, still a bit of work to be done with those nuts and bolts, Ted.
Yeah, but everyone more or less going through, the stuff that isn't sort of performance dependent. I'm sure there'll be various levels of fuel on board, and yeah, I think maybe after the lunch break, some cars will have new drivers, such as this one. Lando Norris will get in for the afternoon session. McLaren, one of the few teams, I think it's fair to say, actually splitting their drivers every day. What have you spotted on the
Looks like he's on new tyres here, hence the crawling outlap as well. I just spotted the shiny edge of those Pirelli tyres. I'm so glad they do that with what is it, the release agent or something you use on the tyre, and it just gives us a chance to see, oh yeah, they're on fresher tyres or brand new tyres, in fact. So yeah, crawling around with quite a hot track temperature. You're going to let this Aston Martin pass on the left-hand side and then get back onto the racing line to hopefully give us a bit more of a performance run.
I don't know how much you've spoken about the McLaren so far, but you know, going into this test, there was a lot of anticipation. There was a suggestion from Lando or from the team, whether it was said or not out loud, that there's more to come. We're going to have some DRS flap open. We're going to have some things that, you know, we haven't shown you everything. Well, it was Lando who said, why should we show you everything when we don't have to? There hasn't been a huge lot that we didn't see in the pre-test pictures that have appeared here. And I've asked the team, are we going to see some new bits on day 2 and 3? And they say, no, that's not in the plan at the moment. So maybe it's just the floor edge, the diffuser, the bits they could cover up that they decided to. But yeah, there are a few less new bits on there than I thought I'd see. I'll let you do the rest of it.
Yeah, so he's a little bit wide actually through turn 6. I think he was expecting a bit more from this car on these new tyres than he actually had. And so ran a little bit wide through 6. He won't be happy about that. But yeah, sitting at the moment, his best time 1.2 seconds off. He was 4/10 down on this lap through sector 1. It's not even a personal best for him, as you can see on the bottom of the screen there. So now the car touching quite a bit down towards turn 11. You've got the wind behind you there, and again, just misses the apex, and you're off the track. So you wave goodbye to this particular lap time. That's what I was saying earlier on to Rachel, that you've got to have the knowledge of what the wind is doing to the car at all times, and he's now in the turbulence of the car in front as well. So it's gone away from this. If it was a qualifying run, you'd be saying it wasn't very well managed in terms of distance to the car in front. It's hard in this session because, you know, the Aston's clearly on a race run in front. You're trying to do more of a performance run, hence the DRS being open and the new tyres. The car did look pretty heavy to me though as well, and I'm sure he could have improved that time despite the first sector not being his best. But no, that's a lap to forget for Oscar at this point. But you know, in testing, it's, you know, you're constantly learning, and that lap definitely wasn't for nothing. You learn all of the things that didn't work there for you and put it right next time. You've still got time to do that.
So 1 in the bank for Oscar Piastri as we have a look at the bumpiest part of the circuit in slow-mo, and over the bumps goes the Ferrari. Are we going to see anything make a bid for freedom?
Ted's pointing at the side pod.
It's a tyre temperature camera that they decided to put in the side pod.
Oh, is it infrared? An infrared camera?
Looking at the back surface of the tyre.
Very good. We used to get that infrared.
I like this
imagery.
Harman Automotive. I like this idea that various cars have names of senior management from other teams on them. So Komatsu is on the Williams, which of course the Haas team boss. Harman, there's a sponsor on their Ferrari. Harman was the technical director of Alpine. Matt Harman.
Up and down the grid. Very, very strange. Very strange. Let's send it down to the pit lane now, where Will Buxton is standing by at Red Bull.
Thank you, guys. Ted was mentioning the fact that we're going to see a lot of new bits on the cars, potentially, during testing. Some new bits that the teams are trialling here this week are down to a new regulation which was brought in after the Qatar Grand Prix last year. You remember how stiflingly hot and incredibly humid that race was, and how much the drivers suffered with their physicality as a result. Now, we're used to seeing an opening on the tip of the nose, and that was where the air normally flowed through to get to the drivers. From this year, the teams are able to put a scoop on the chassis itself. Now, if you look to where the number 1 is, just being polished there are 2 of those little scoops, and I believe therefore the airflow to get to the driver. Interestingly, though, that is a panel that can be removed and replaced with one that doesn't have those scoops, so they don't want that additional driver cooling. But if we look towards the tip of the nose, where we would normally see an opening, again, there is a vanity panel there which has been covered up, so you don't actually have that initial opening. And all the teams are experimenting with this today. If we go down to Aston Martin, which we won't do because Fernando's out on track, they have that scoop, but again, no hole in the nose. Some teams aren't running scoops, aren't running the hole. Some teams just running the hole. So all of the teams get into grips with the new way the airflow will run over that nose part of the car with those new scoops brought in. You don't have to use them, but you can just to increase driver cooling.
Thank you very much, Mr. Buxton, down there in the pit lane. 38 minutes to go in the first session on the first day of pre-season testing. Fernando Alonso continuing to log laps up there. This is going to be the end of his 64th tour of the circuit. Verstappen has done 51, Leclerc has done 48, and Alonso now puts 64 on the board.
It's a good point Will makes about the driver cooling, and that has changed. You can see actually, well, you can't see it from this shot, but you can when we're off board of the Aston Martin. There is a similar kind of duct going in at that top part of the nose. And from memory, talking to technical directors and designers, they did always say that's kind of an aerodynamically not a critical area, which is why you put aerials and stuff like that just around the number 14. You see there's a little vent there as well. So if there has been, as a result of Qatar, and as Will was saying, a change to the regulations to allow that, I must say I didn't notice it in the regulations. That was just a suggestion that the FIA made after Qatar, that they will allow that. A scoop or a driver cooling, something to be incorporated, but I didn't notice that was actually in technical regulations. It might just be a coincidence that they decided to move some kind of, whether it's driver cooling vent or to cool some other parts of the car from the tip of the nose to around the driver's number.
Qatar Grand Prix last year, where the drivers really did have to battle through extreme temperatures and humidity. Very unusual to see drivers. George Russell was putting his hands out of the cockpit whilst driving back through the pack after his turn 1 contact, and that suggestion, that allowance put in by the FIA for this year.
But it was double the humidity of here in Bahrain, wasn't it? I seem to remember the humidity was in the 60% in Qatar, which is what made it so difficult. I know it's a cliche, but here in Bahrain, it's very dry heat, isn't it, Anthony? It's very dry heat.
This time of the year, yes, but it can be in summertime. We don't come here in summertime, but apparently it does get very humid. And that's, I think, like you said, Ted, that's really what went against the drivers in Qatar. And it's just when we saw the image, didn't we, of drivers opening their visor even as they were coming down the pit lane in desperation to get a bit of airflow. But when you got that close air, that humidity, it just feels like nothing's coming in. And it's actually it's more the torso area, so body, that you need to cool down, not necessarily your head. But it's all they could do is just try to open their visor, and yeah, obviously that's dangerous as well. The FIA don't want to see that. You know, the visor's there for good reason, and it's got to be closed at all times for good reason. The visors are incredibly strong. These Lexan shield visor that they have. So yeah, you don't want to have any stones coming in, which can often happen. And if you got your visor open in desperation to keep cool, you don't want to imagine the consequences if you were unlucky. But yeah, driving in the heat, there's definite performance loss with that from a driver's point of view, and it's easy for that to be overlooked from a team, even for the fans watching this sport. And the only driving experience they have is, with all due respect, in a road car. It's a very difficult physical game when you're in one of these, and you've got the adrenaline up, your heart rate's naturally high because of that, and with a high heart rate your body temperature starts to increase anyway, and there's nothing you can do. Fitness doesn't come into it at that point. It's just you're at the mercy of your blood getting too hot, and you start to become delirious. I've experienced it myself. You become dizzy.
Where was this that you experienced it?
We raced in the World Endurance Championship in Austin in September. Actually, they're going back there this year, the similar time of year, and it was very, very tough. All you could do was a single stint in the car. You normally do double stint, so that's close to 2 hours, but this was just over an hour behind the wheel, and that was enough. You were begging to come out. Obviously, that's in a closed car as well, so you didn't have the luxury of this airflow coming over the visor anyway. and it's just your body temperature just soaring, and you just can't stop it. And it's so hard to quantify how much performance loss is there from a driver. I saw many drivers make a lot of mistakes during that race. Drivers like Fernando Alonso, you wouldn't expect to make a kind of what seemed to be an elementary mistake, just running off the circuit. So the pit stop, Ted's getting excited. There's a pit stop.
Did you spot Alan Permain?
No, I didn't.
RB jumping over the tensor barrier just then.
I didn't know. Good spot.
He was just as the previous shot as Bottas was going in. Alan Permain, of course, ex-sporting director at the Enstone team for many years. He was a one-team man for pretty much the whole of his Formula One career until he parted ways with Alpine. And we welcome him back to Formula One as, I don't know the official job title, but I assume it's sporting director of RB. And you just saw him in that previous shot, doing a little as agile as ever, jumping over the tensor barrier rather than doing that fiddly thing where you have to get it out of its groove,
and then replace it,
go past and replace it in its groove. But yeah,
I can't get used to this car, Ted. I know you're a big fan of the luminous green, but every time I look at it, I just immediately think it's Floby's paint all over the...
No, it certainly
When are
does.
they going to clean it?
No, it definitely looks like Floby's paint. When it's coming down the pit lane, you think, God, who's doing a massive Floby's experiment?
On every corner.
It's the Sauber. But no, I've already got used to that. Actually, quite a nice looking car. I have to compliment them. James Key, this is not really his car. He joined too late for the essential design of it, but he is overseeing it from now. They've done a nice job. It's Red Bull-esque from last year, not Red Bull-esque from this year, and it's quite tidy. But if you were, so of course Sauber, one of the teams who are going to swap in the lunch break. So going back to what you're saying in the fatigue, even though you haven't got the humidity and ultimate heat of Qatar that you have here, would you prefer to do the whole day like Max Verstappen, or would you and your teammate, Taku or whoever, want to halve the days like?
Yeah, I'd like to split it.
Would you?
Yeah, I'd like to split it. So. And try and keep both times that you're in the car to be the same time of day as well, or each day that you're in the car to be a similar time of day at least, so you get a relative back-to-back of things that you've tried, and track condition, try and keep it as constant as possible. But also, from a fatigue point of view, that you want to be as sharp as you possibly can. And I know when they're on race runs like this that it's not quite as tense as it used to be. Back in the refueling days, Ted, now you stick the fuel in it and you send the car from start to finish. Whereas when you had the refueling, of course, it was a race of mini sprints essentially. So you're always pushing much harder at all times. So you sort of get more into the rhythm now of tyre protection mode in a race run, and so I think it's a bit of a different physical element coming to the driver today than it once was. They have much higher loads from the cars. It's more lock up there, and so in the middle of turn 2 or just before turn 10, so we missed the apex there. But yeah, so you have a much higher downforce, much higher downforce today. So when you are pushing the car with new tyres, there's a lot more load going through the body at all times. But yeah, I think in terms of how skittish the car used to be, I think that's quite a different ball game today. It's a heavier car, it's more lethargic, especially in slow speed, so you do have to give it some more time. Those old cars were quite alive at all times on their groove tyres and 200 kilos less weight and narrower track and shorter wheelbase. It's quite amazing how the cars have grown in size over the years.
So McLaren drivers must think like you then, because that's what they're doing. They're doing Oscar Lando, second day Oscar Lando the same, so they've got something to prepare, and then third day Lando Oscar.
And is it the same at Mercedes as well? Are Mercedes doing that? Are they using half day? I think they might be using half days as well down there.
Got that detail here.
But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And I think that's clearly it's driver led as well. Who wants to do what and when, and you come up with a plan altogether. You don't just jump in by chance. It's there's an awful lot of planning that goes into it beforehand.
So, just jumping in for a second because, well, to be fair, Ted sort of got me like, well, maybe I should be standing up as well. So I've put the Compbox camera back up on top of the screen, although it needs a little tweak, I think, because it's looking too far down at me. Oh, big lock-up, Max Verstappen. And he nearly went off the track down in turn 8 as well, so Max having a bit of a problem. Yeah, the Compbox camera was usually on the laptop. That was for the when other people are in the commentary box, but we're in the last half an hour of the opening session, so I can afford to stand up a bit, get some running in as well. But good job so far. Adrian Newey apparently not in team kits, don't very much involved as well. Yeah, I noticed that. Adam Cooper saying that. Adrian's not in team kit this weekend for this test, which surprising me, and I think surprising a lot of people there as well about it, like he's not properly involved in it, which is alarming. But we'll keep his eyes very much focused on it at the moment. In terms of segments as well, Verstappen will complete a long run lap as he comes down and across the line, and Verstappen does a 1:34.341 and goes still in first place, but in terms of race run simulation, it's about 4th fastest. This was why he had a lock-up uphill at turn 4. With it being that time, I would say that might have been an actual push lap we saw from Verstappen. Maybe they'd want to try something about it, but that to me seems like it was a push. We'll see as well, if you're watching on YouTube, below the Visa Cash App RB car. Another lock-up down to turn 8. So 2 lock-ups, one at 4, one at turn 8. And did he have another one down at turn 11 as well? Yes, he did, running wide. So a very messy lap for Max Verstappen as he's now backed off and he's let Ocon go through him on the driver tracker. We can see Ocon now on the TV pictures. Alonso's there too, just ahead of turn 12. Magnussen's doing a practice start and comes back out on the track. 26 minutes to go in the morning session here of day 1 of pre-season testing for Formula 1 in 2024. Escobar says, is Max the only person to run his car on hard tyres during this test? I think so at the moment. We haven't got the tyre data, you might have noticed as well. So we don't know fully all the information, but we at home can tell what tyre they're on, because right now Ocon is on the C0 tyre, which is the white band tyre, so he's on a harder run, but Max on a harder run now, presumably with the track temperature still being at 39.6 degrees and the tyres have eaten up. They'll use the next 26 minutes as simulation, but also we've got the red flag test coming up. That's always the thing. They test the safety car, the virtual safety car, and the red flag procedure, including standing and rolling starts. So that's coming up soon. Let's hand back over to the world feed with Alex Jakes, Anthony Davidson and Ted Kravitz.
Use more of the front brakes than the rear, because the rear will just start to slide and just sort of tag along behind you, snake around behind you. So as the weight transfer goes forwards, you can then apply more pressure to that front brake. Of course, on a bicycle, if you go too far with that, the thing's going to endo and spit you off over the top of it. So a similar kind of thing happens in the car, and you feel that. You feel the rear go light and it starts to snake around. That's not good for corner entry into a slow speed corner. You want it, or even a medium speed corner, say like turn 6, for example, here. You're braking a little bit and turning it at the same time. You're asking a lot from the rear of the car because the weight transfer has gone forwards. You can mitigate that to some degree by brake bias. In the same way, on a bicycle, you'll then have to bleed off the front brake and use a bit more of the rear brake. But the best thing you can do is actually sit yourself backwards over the rear axle and apply more front brake pressure, because then you're stabilizing that weight transfer. And that's exactly what the anti-dive is doing on these cars. So if you go too far, imagine if you had really long arms, if you were Mr. Tickle, and you could place yourself so far over.
This is the best explanation I have heard in years.
You would then go too far, and the front would start to lock up. That's when you've gone too far on the anti-dive. So it's that relationship between the brake bias and the anti-dive that you're looking for. So you can start to find a happy balance, quite literally, between that, the brake bias and the dive of the car, by playing around with those tools. If you don't have the tool available, the anti-dive suspension. It's not just like you stick it on and there you go. You can tune it. It's a tunable device.
Excellent stuff from Mr. Davidson.
I got Mr. Tickle
talking about
into a serious
Tickle,
analysis.
And now we're going to hand over to Mr. Buxton downstairs.
Thank you so much. Let's carry that Mr. Tickle chat through, because I wonder how long George Russell's arms actually are. There's a lot of work going on the front of this Mercedes. You can see the guys pouring in to the front of the tub where the pedals are, but I don't believe it's a pedal issue. You can also maybe see the steering column just coming down the middle there as it attaches to the front axle, and the guy's doing a lot of work on that. Now, famously, last year we heard a lot of talk from Lewis Hamilton in particular about how he was unhappy with the driving position within the cockpit of this Mercedes. The team, as we understand it, has moved that driving position back about 5 to 10 centimetres, and with that, of course, comes a consideration of that steering column and how close or far away the steering wheel would be from the driver, having changed that very important part of the car. Anthony, as a driver, clearly, how key is it you've got the correct length away from you of the steering wheel? And also, am I right? Does that look like what they're doing there? To me, it looks like a little bit of work on the steering column.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what they're turning there, Will. But yeah, it could be exactly what we were talking about before, with that relationship of how much the car dives under the braking zone. But in terms of the actual steering wheel distance to the driver, it is really important. I always found that if you had the steering wheel a bit, if you set yourself...
I think we've got a problem for Alexander Albon here. We might go red flag. Albon's come to a stop. Now, he took the exit curb. This might be red flag. Alexander Albon has come to a stop on the track. And is this going to deliver the red flag? We've got a yellow flag, as you can see. So yellow flag is out on the circuit. Alexander Albon has stopped. He left down the pit lane, cut off the inside line at turn 1, and has now come to a rest at turn 3. So the yellow flags are out. If we go red, the track map will go entirely red. But this is quite a surprise. It's just on the inside of the pit lane. If they can push it in, they might just get away with it. We don't want to lose 20 minutes of this session having to run in for a yellow flag. So we'll keep an eye out. If they need to crane it away, now the green light's on above the halo, which indicates to me that it's okay, and now it's gone amber. So I think they're going to try and, they might do a reset. And it's now, you can see it's disappeared from the track map, actually, Albon's car. Oh, let's take a look. Let's take a listen, actually. This is down towards turn 1. Gearbox, because the motor's still trying to tune around, and then look, anti-stall. So it's gone into anti-stall halfway down the straight, and then the engine and ICE has just died on him down the stuff straight. So he's carried it with inertia because he'd passed the pit lane in towards turn 1 and 2. So the yellow flags are out now, and they haven't red flagged the session, because if they do throw the red flag, it'll be the end of this morning's session, because I doubt they'll get it back in time. There is a gap in the fence where they can push it back in, and then the lunch break in 20 minutes, get it back to the pit lane then. So we'll take a look and see if we do go red flag. Buxton.
Williams, over to you, sir.
I have, and all of the gang were actually waiting out in the pit lane for Alex Albon, ready and waiting just for a very normal end of run. I wonder if he's run out of fuel. We'll try.
So I think he's trying to restart it on the motor. So has Alex Albon run out of fuel? It did. So has he run out of fuel? He's gone into anti-stall. What has happened? We don't know. But yellow flag 100% still there. And Albon, I'm looking at him now on the screen, still stationary at turn 3, as you can see on the driver tracker. I think he's minimised, isn't he, at turn 3. He's precisely on the runoff area where you cut off onto the international section. If he gets out of the car, though, they'll have to red flag. Ocon, Verstappen and Magnussen are out on the track. Now, if they come into the pit lane, then race control may as well throw the red flag, because there's no... hello, what's this? Double yellow flag now in sector 3, as you can see on the race control map. And into the pit lane has come Ocon. Verstappen, is he going to go through or take in? Marshall's ventured out onto the track. That's why it's now a double yellow. Verstappen's come in. I think Magnussen's going to come in as well. So they're going to try and push Albon behind the barrier and out of the way. And fingers crossed it's going to keep that red flag out. And he's just turning it in as well. I'm trying to hear in the background if there's anything chugging on the motor. Magnussen stayed out, so now it's up to race control what they do. Richie says, viewership is amazing, Josh. I can hear you, as in, I can't hear you, as in the classroom, but brilliant job welcoming everyone if you're new. Absolutely. If you're new here, welcome. Thanks for tuning in to JB Motorsports 2. And Richie, hope you're having a great lesson as well out there. We have gone back to green flag running. So Alexander Albon is the first victim of a failure in 2024 on board with Verstappen as he launches. Oh, that's a 6 out of 10 for a practice start. That's a little bit better. A lot nicer run around as he comes to the braking zone for turn 1. So Albon gets away with it. No need for a red flag. We remain red flagless in this first day of pre-season testing with 15 minutes to go. But we are about to go into the procedure, whether it's either a red flag, a safety car, or virtual safety car test. Let's hand over to the guys in the box.
Soon I spoke. That's a lesson to me in a commentary box.
I thought that would be I was with you. I thought that would be a slam dunk red flag, and on we went. And on we
That would have been a slap on the wrist there, Ted, from Murray Walker.
Don't say anything until it's happened.
Exactly.
If you weren't with us earlier, Ted, 6 months into his Formula One career, was the commentary box producer for Murray Walker.
Standing in this very position.
This is 1997, isn't it, Ted?
97, yeah.
There we go.
Between 97 and 2001.
And then they had the bright idea of putting you downstairs in the pit.
Down, yeah.
The rest, as they say, is history.
It's been a terrible mistake. So yeah, I said,
They just wanted him out of the commentary box.
Here. Yeah. Murray was in that corner where you are. Martin would be there, and I would have a panel to the producers and to the
nice picture of you, Ted.
It's terrible. I look annoyed for some reason, and I would be talking to Martin, but I wouldn't talk to Murray Walker because Murray didn't like to be interrupted with talkback. So I devised a cue card system to tell him. I had them laminated so they wouldn't, I could use them at every track around the world. So it would start from the usual one: start, stop, no more commentary, and of course at ITV Sport at the time between '97 and 2008 we had ad breaks. So there was you'd throw to a break, pick up again, James in pits, and it would say Louise in pits as well. So you'd put that in his field of vision.
I like
it. Throw to James Allen
like a board over the pit wall,
or Louise Goodman, so that I didn't have to bother him in his flow of commentary with.
I don't like talkback. I hate
talkback. Not everyone likes talkback.
I like the behind-the-scenes knowledge. That's excellent stuff. Will has made his way to Williams, or stayed at Williams, I should say.
I have, mate. As I understand it, a reliability issue, but I don't think we're a million miles away if we suggest it might have had something to do with fuel, be that intentional. Well, it sounds like it wasn't intentional, but yeah, that's what I'm hearing at the moment. A reliability issue at Williams, but yeah, I don't think fuel is a million miles away.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Buxton. Max Verstappen pushing on. This is his 60th lap of the day. He has a 1:32.5, which was clear of everyone. There's a picture of me now on the side of the screen. So the graphics team have been busy over the winter as well. Excellent to see. So Verstappen, who's either been looking a little bit ragged, but that one lap he did, the 1:32.5, looked very collected indeed on the medium compounded tyre as he brings it around the 14th and technically 15th corner of the racetrack, and logs another as he comes across. And 1:36.1. A reminder, if you're fairly new to this testing lark, the time's not the most relevant until we get to the final day. All about the mileage on this opening day of the year.
14 minutes to go.
Looking a little bit a little bit more at ease, I'd say.
Yeah, it looks good. It just looks good, doesn't it?
It looks better. I mean, it wasn't earlier on in the day. It looked like a handful from the car. Looks good. It's well poised over the bumps. That's one thing that's been consistent from the start of today compared to where we are now. But Max definitely was wrestling around with the car a lot, and seems to be in a bit of a happier place now with it, at least.
Let's go into some greater detail then with the Red Bull and send it across to Sam Collins, our technical analyst.
Hi, Alex. Thanks for that. One of the things I absolutely love about this time of year, pre-season testing, is that the teams do not get to keep their secrets anymore. We finally get to see quite a lot of the bits they bring to the circuit. And what I want to take a look at is this on Max Verstappen's Red Bull. Something that we've all been talking about is their side pods and how they've changed their cooling system this year to sort of follow the early season Mercedes from last year. But take a look at this, just behind Max Verstappen's head. Nobody else has really picked up on these as far as I can tell, but two absolutely huge cooling inlets either side of the driver's head. Red Bull are taking a huge amount of cooling air from the car, and I'll show you where that is on the car as you roll forwards, because we can see the car coming through the corner here, and you'll be able to see, I can see what Ted Kravitz is doing, making me giggle, but just to show you where these are on the car, as I roll the clip slightly forward, I'll just highlight that for you, because it's really hard to see them. And at the launch of the Red Bull, you can just see it there behind the driver's head. At the launch of the Red Bull, the team had these parts completely covered up, blanked off, made to look like a bit of the cockpits around, and all of our attention was focused on where was the normal Red Bull side pod inlets. Well, I can tell you they've got two conventional side pod inlets. Well, they're not that conventional. You'll see them just when this mechanic gets out the way. And you can see two inlets here. One lower inlet, very much a small slit, very similar to what Mercedes used last year, but much, much tighter. And then one, some people are calling it a shark inlet, higher up, just underneath this upper protrusion of the top of the side pod. So triple cooling inlets either side of the Red Bull, and that's something we haven't really seen before. So Red Bull really pushing their design to a new level, and this is crucial on making the Red Bull zero pod, if you want to call it that, concept work and exposing the top edge of that floor, because what Mercedes struggled with, and moving Lewis Hamilton and George Russell forward in the cockpit, was that they had to move all the cooling system into the middle of the car. Well, Mercedes never quite made that work. They had to move the drivers back, as you can see on the onboard camera for this year. But Red Bull haven't seemed to need to move Max Verstappen or Sergio Perez in the cockpit forward at all, because I think they've realigned their cooling system with those shoulder coolers that, Ted, you were just doing a great impression of.
Well, thank you, Sam, not only have we seen it, we've logged it, we've figured out what they're doing, and we've come up with a name for it, Sam, already. So they are the bunny rabbit ears cooling devices either side. But Russell on a good lap here, Ant, before we come back to the cooling.
Russell looking good in this first sector. It's a personal best for him. We'll see if we can get Ted to do the impression down the camera for you in a minute. But we continue on a good lap for George Russell. Talk us through the rest of it.
Yeah, it looked pretty good in turn 10, actually. Just the exit, you could get on power nice and early. Get a bit of a twitch there on the rear of the car midway through turn 11, but still okay. Almost fully pinned through turn 12. I think it's just a brief lift there, which they were all doing all the way through last year as well. Apart from in qualifying, that one lap where they could take it flat out. So yeah, another personal best in the middle sector. Turns into the final corner, a bit of understeer with that wind before you head towards a headwind coming out of the corner. So it should be a best lap for Russell. Yes, it is personal best in all three sectors to go 1.6 down.
Is Ted going to do the thing? That's what I want to know.
So yeah, a slight improvement. Yeah, car to me still looks like it's a little bit similar to how the Red Bull looked earlier on, still a little bit on the heavier side, a little bit lethargic in its change of direction, but I'd say the traction looked pretty good actually, out of turn 10 especially.
Alex Albon continuing the debrief there. If you are just switching on or pressing play, excellent to have your company. The only issue of note falling the tyre driver's way earlier in the session, where he pulled off right about there. And the team saying it was a reliability issue. We do not have confirmation of what exactly was the problem. As we go back now to Yuki Tsunoda.
they've cleaned the car. That's one obvious difference from the last time we saw him driving. Gone is the Floviz paint from most of it. Maybe I can see on the tip of the nose,
bit,
just
yeah.
a little bit lurking.
Rear wing as well.
But, yeah, comes into turn 8. Difficult corner, that one. Downhill braking. And it's tempting to brake quite late because you're building up the speed on the exit of 7. And then slow it back down again after the run from 8 through to turn 9 and 10. They usually take that gear they take that corner in 3rd gear just to help to maximise the traction more than anything on the exit. And then 4th gear through turn 11, waits for it mid-corner because you've got the tailwind, and backs out of it a lot through turn 12. He's on a slower lap here, really taking care of those tyres. You see the difference between how Russell could attack that lap he was on compared to where we are now with Tsunoda. So into the final corner, and the car turns in quite nicely, but he's made sure he's given himself a lot of time there by braking early. And you can fall foul quite easily on this track by overloading the tyres in the longitudinal sense by braking too late, and you can one corner often leads into the next, and these tight corners like here in 1 into 2, and it's better to always be like driving on the defensive side around this track. I always found, especially on a race run, by braking early, imagining and assuming that the car is going to start breaking grip very early in the corner, and as soon as you start to hustle the car too much around here, it's not going to pay off. The track's going to bite you.
There he is. There's Alan Permain.
There he is.
Hello, Alan.
Emails are on
nicknamed
the
Bat from his early times at Benetton because they used to say he only comes out at night.
Excellent.
Maybe he will or won't like me explaining why his nickname is Bat, but that's the way it was explained to me. So I've got to go. Just one last thought on the, because it's the interviews at 1400 local time, on the Red Bull cooling.
And
Sam
dared
was
to look at his
talking
watch
about
is what happened there.
I wonder if it looks that, so there's the bunny ears cooling either side of the, I'm holding I can't do it with both, either side of the driver's head. Then there's the vertical slot cooling, and then the other bit, what I'm calling the overbite, is a bit like a jet fighter.
Yeah.
You know, they have the wing, and I've got a ready picture for you here, Anthony. I know it doesn't help.
First overtake of the season.
And on the inside, Verstappen passes the
down the inside. Yes. No, I'll behave.
There we go.
It's still way too early for all of that. And Verstappen makes his way through. Sorry, Ted.
So it looks a little bit like the air intake of a jet fighter under the wing at that kind of angle, at an angle where the top edge is facing forwards, and then it sort of goes back as to the back edge. So flipped a different way from last year, where that was on top of that little winglet, the side impact structure, and then it took the air from the top of that. So underneath, and it wouldn't be the first time that Adrian Newey or any of these designers have taken a cue from aerospace and airplanes and fighters and aircraft in a kind of idea of how to get the air most efficiently into cooling the car. Anyway, that's what it looks like to me. Right, I will speak to you from the pit lane later, but I've got to go and interview whoever's in the press conference afterwards.
Very good, Ted.
Excellent stuff, Ted. Thank you for joining us up here in commentary. We will hear from Ted down in the pit lane as we review the move down into turn number 1.
The move, the first move of the year. Look at that. And it was a Red Bull overtaking a Ferrari. Who would have guessed?
That DRS is still monstrous on the Red Bull, even if they're not pushing on 100% yet as well. That was just a nice slip move on the inside, pulled in, and Verstappen passes Leclerc with ease into turn 1. Okay, we've got 4 minutes left of this first morning session here from the Bahrain International Circuit. We're watching right now Oscar Piastri coming across the line. His final 4 minutes of the day, of course, as Lando Norris takes over the McLaren car this afternoon. And a little bit of smoke over that bump as well for Piastri as he hurtles down towards turn 1, flicks the car through left and right. Got a bit of aero paint on the front left suspension as well, so Piastri definitely is just seeing how that airflow goes for the new McLaren. Taking it nice and slow, nice and easy. No need to push pedal to the metal just yet. The real big runs will come later on. Now, just a reminder, when this session ends, we'll go for our lunch break. We will be live again on JB Motorsports 2 and Instagram for the afternoon session. That's an hour away. We'll be on air, so an hour from now. And if you're watching on JB Motorsports with the delayed coverage, once the second session ends, we'll upload it and premiere it there as well, so you can watch back all of the action. But make sure to join us live on JB Motorsports 2 for this test, like many people are already watching, with over 6,000 already and 242 watching live. Thank you to everybody who's made the trip over and making this worthwhile. We thought we'd only be talking to about 20 or 30 people on JB Motorsports 2 for the F1 test. You've really blown us all away by having 240 live and over 6,000 as well, so it means a lot. Piastri out of the last corner, up to the line. It's a race simulation run for him, but what time is it? It's a 1:37.961. That's 5.5 seconds slower across the board. Let's get the final thoughts then from Alex and Anthony.
It's the end of last year. Fantastic update throughout the season. Then matched by Ferrari in the final stages, but they're just hoping to be way more competitive than they have been in the last 2 years. As we look at Tom Stallard there, whose voice you will hear talking to Oscar Piastri throughout this season on the team radio.
Well, do you remember where McLaren were? They were in a really desperate state, weren't they, when they came here with the overheating of the brakes? And I mean, to the point where I believe they almost didn't race. They needed to be flying out new parts after the test. They hardly did any laps at all in the test. They kept overheating those brakes time and time again. And another overtake here. Everyone's getting involved now. This Ferrari of Charles Leclerc, as he pounds out in his race runs.
Gets passed by Tsunoda.
He's getting overtaken left, right and centre. Hopefully that's not the story come Saturday afternoon next week.
Saturday klaxon,
caught out.
Saturday klaxon, Grand Prix Saturday, etc., etc. Get the graphics made.
Someone's going to get it wrong at some point. Don't be that person.
Tell everyone you know.
Yeah, Thursday is practice, Friday is qualifying, and Saturday is the Grand Prix. No action on Sunday, but we will have a NASCAR race on as well on JB Motorsports. So you can tune in if you like. We'll be around to cover it all and hear all of the action, but it is that type of season where we have not one, not two, but 3 races on a Saturday this year for Formula One. Formula E race on a Saturday, so there's not really much difference to me, but it will be weird. First F1 season since 1985 to start on a Saturday. And of course, everyone's saying, oh, well, Formula One belongs on a Sunday, doesn't belong on a Saturday. It's against the history of the sport. People who say that clearly don't know the history of the sport, because the first ever Formula One Grand Prix at Silverstone on the 13th of May 1950, it was a Saturday. And in fact, the British Grand Prix ran on a Saturday until the mid-1980s. The British Grand Prix was always on a Saturday, because the Sunday was usually the touring car day. So, yeah, there you have it. British Grand Prix used to be on a Saturday for a long, long time. It used to be alien to have it on a Sunday, and now it's become the normal. 3, 2, 1. And the checkered flag is out on the first day of pre-season testing's morning session. So the checkered flag is out, a 1:32.548. That's the fastest time as things stand. Then it's Leclerc, Alonso, Piastri, Tsunoda, Russell. There's the checkered flag, and there's the confirmation. Now, we haven't actually had a practice start or a red flag or anything like that simulation like we usually do in testing. But the flag is out. The session rounds out. Great job from Verstappen with a 1:32.548. Leclerc in second, crossing line with the flag. Cars in the pit lane. Verstappen, Alonso, Albon and Ocon are the 10 cars that are out there. Of course, it's a half-field run. Albon's car has been returned to the pit lane and has been pushed back into the Williams garage, which is fantastic news as well. Magnussen the last one not to take the checker flag. Where is he? He's just at turn 13 now. First car to take the flag was Bottas. So Magnussen will come down the back straight away and will take over the line. Nice run around here for the first session of 2024 has been completed. And Verstappen, 7 tenths, let's face it, clear to Leclerc. And then a further couple of tenths back. We'll see Alonso coming into it as well with a nice little run around as well. So he's definitely on course. DRS disabled. And I wonder if this is for some practice start procedures, which is allowed around this track. Unless they're going to test a safety car or a red flag protocol procedure. But the drivers are going to come back into the pit lane. We'll stay on here as long as we can, see what's happening. Afternoon session will be coming up as well in 58 minutes time. So very quick lunch. I'll have a scone, I'll have a packet of crisps. I've got half a pasty left as well. So pasty first, packet of crisps, then some crisps, and a little drink, sugary drink. Get back into the box, buzzing with energy. A few more hours, and bish bash bosh, go, lights out, and then at 4 o'clock we'll end and upload everything, get everything set for the next day, and then I'll grab some sleep, a couple of hours. I only had 4 hours sleep last night with the disasters that we had and having to set everything up. Then we delayed on air today, so that was brilliant. But I hope you all enjoy Multiviewers, timing screens, and our new layout here as well. With thanks to Multiviewer, if you do use Multiviewer, whether you have to watch Formula 1 or use the timings, just look at it. It is absolutely amazing. Practice starts happening on the track now. We're looking at George Russell. Piastri's done one as well. Russell and Magnussen are going to take on as Magnussen's going into the pit lane. And Magnussen's going to the pit. So Russell will be the only car to do a practice start out there on the grid. And we'll pass over to the world feed because then you can see the telemetry. Alex.
Don't know if he's alone in treating himself to a practice start.
Nobody else has.
No one else has, but the burnout point. Yeah, burnout's being completed by George Russell.
And look at that, opt for pole position spot on the grid.
Knows where he's aiming for.
Here we go then. On board with George Russell for the first time this year. 5 red lights are on. Puts it into position on the grid, selects first gear, builds at 12,000 revs. It's lights out. Race on for George Russell as he hurtles down towards turn 1. A perfect start there from that Mercedes. And for the team that had a trouble last year, they got that one spot on.
I mean, I don't know why other teams didn't do that. So yeah, strange. He was the only one to do it.
So here's the results then for the first session here on day 1. Max Verstappen's the fastest with a 1:32.548. Charles Leclerc is second, Fernando Alonso third, Oscar Piastri is fourth. It's fifth for Yuki Tsunoda, sixth for George Russell, seventh for Valtteri Bottas, eighth Alexander Albon, ninth is Esteban Ocon, and Kevin Magnussen rounds out the top 10. We will be back this afternoon for all of the action from the evening session from day 1 for the Formula 1 Aramco pre-season testing in 2024. Verstappen and Russell will remain in the cars, but this afternoon we will see Sargent, Ricciardo, Norris, Gasly, Stroll, Zhou, Hülkenberg and Sainz take to the track for the first time in 2024. This afternoon session runs 3 p.m. until 7 p.m. That is local time. Thursday 10 till 2 and then 3 till 7 and the same on Friday as well. That's all local time. We'll be live on JB Motorsports 2 and Instagram for the action and delayed coverage on JB Motorsports itself. Thanks for your company this morning as Russell comes into the pit lane. It's been another great opening session. Apologies we were late on air, but we'll make up for it with all the action we've got coming in 2024. We'll see you later on. In about 55 minutes time, we'll go again. Bye-bye.